When Zhu Qinghuan was abducted by bandits, Xiao Yunlan, the shadow guard who should have protected her, was nowhere to be found. She endured 3 days and nights of torment in the bandits' den, whipping, cold water, starvation, yet she desperately defended her chastity to the death. When she returned to the general's manor, covered in wounds, she was met with a sight that chilled her to the bone. Her shadow guard, Xiao Yunlan, sat solemnly in the grand chair, dressed in the luxurious court robes of the crown prince, with rows of black-armored guards kneeling respectfully before him. "Your Highness, the matter has been settled," the lead guard reported with a cupped fist salute. "As per your orders, those men thoroughly tormented Miss Zhu. Every possible method was employed except the final step." Xiao Yunlan idly rubbed his jade thumb ring, his thin lips parting slightly. A single syllable, yet it sent Zhu Qinghuan plunging into an icy abyss. The crown prince, is Xiao Yunlan the crown prince? Were those bandits also arranged by him? She bit down hard on her lower lip, the taste of blood spreading in her mouth, her nails digging deep into her palms, yet she felt no pain. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Why? Before she could make sense of it, she heard the guard ask again, "Your Highness, if you fancy the second miss, why not simply ask for her hand in marriage? Why go through the trouble of disguising yourself as a hidden guard by the eldest miss's side, and tormenting her like this?" Xiao Yunlan's eyes flickered slightly as he spoke calmly. "Mingyu is born of a concubine and has a sensitive disposition. If she knew my identity, she would surely not dare to marry into the Eastern Palace, and her interactions with me would become timid and submissive. I don't want that. I only wish for her to be at ease. I've heard that Zhu Qinghuan often bullies Mingyu. By staying close to Zhu Qinghuan, I can protect Mingyu while also taking the opportunity to nurture our relationship." Bang! Zhu Qinghuan felt as if she had fallen into an icy cellar, her blood freezing in her veins. She bullied Zhu Mingyu. When had she ever bullied Zhu Mingyu? Clearly, it was Zhu Mingyu who stole everything from her. Her mother was the principal wife of the general's household, renowned alongside her father as one of the capital's twin war gods. Back then, her father had exhausted every means to win her mother's hand, vowing to remain devoted to her alone for life. He coaxed her mother into laying down her spear and turning to domestic life. Yet when she was 7, her father brought home a concubine, and Zhu Mingyu, who was the same age as her mother's heart turned to ashes. She took up her sword and went to battle, ultimately dying at the frontier. From then on, Zhu Qinghuan harbored deep hatred for her father and Zhu Mingyu. Though she still lived in the general's mansion, she shut herself away until that day. She found a man covered in blood in the snow. "Where is your home?" she asked him. "Gone," he answered tersely, his voice hoarse. So she took him in and made him her shadow guard. Over the years, he protected her with his life, and she gradually developed feelings for him, even casting aside maidenly reserve to show her affection multiple times. Yet he always coldly refused, showing no interest in women, only saying, "Young miss, our statuses are different." Now she finally understood it was never about status. His heart belonged to someone else. But why did it have to be Zhu Mingyu, of all people? Why Zhu Mingyu? Zhu Qinghuan slumped against the wall, tears streaming down her cheeks. She remembered that winter night when Xiao Yunlan, covered in blood, collapsed before her courtyard. She dragged him inside and personally bandaged his wounds. When he awoke, those cold, clear eyes looked at her as he said, "A life-saving grace shall be repaid with a life." She remembered the first time he took an arrow for her, the shaft piercing through his shoulder, his blood staining her entire sleeve crimson. She remembered the Lantern Festival, how amidst the jostling crowds he remained steadfast at her side, his slender fingers hovering protectively around her waist. But now, the bandits' cruel laughter still rang in her ears as they tore at her clothes, their blades carving wounds across her body. All of this was Xiao Yunlan's arrangement. He was the one who protected her, and also the one who hurt her. Zhu Qinghuan staggered backward, accidentally stepping on and breaking a dry branch. "Who's there?" Xiao Yunlan's cold, sharp gaze swept over, and Zhu Qinghuan turned and ran. She couldn't stay here, couldn't let him discover she'd heard everything. Her heart felt as if an invisible hand had clenched it tightly, the pain so intense she could barely breathe. She ran wildly until certain no one was chasing her, then leaned against the wall gasping for breath. Tears streamed uncontrollably down her face, yet she bit her lip hard to stifle any sobs. "Don't cry, Zhu Qinghuan, you must not cry, for someone like this, it's not worth it." She raised her hand and fiercely wiped away her tears, then lifted her gaze toward the direction of the imperial palace. On the day her mother died in battle, the emperor had promised her one wish. Now is the time to use this wish. Zhu Qinghuan knelt on the icy golden tiles of the imperial study, her forehead pressed against the cold floor. "Your Majesty." Her voice was so soft it was almost inaudible. On the day my mother died in battle, you granted me a wish. Now, I wish to use it to be sent as a bride to the Northern Di. Nonsense. The Emperor abruptly stood, his dragon robe sleeves overturning the teacup on the desk. The Northern Di is a barbaric land, bitterly cold and harsh. Those savages are cruel by nature. Do you know how they treat brides sent for alliance? A faint, bitter smile tugged at Zhu Qinghuan's lips. This humble subject understands. Your mother left only you as her bloodline. If her spirit watches from heaven, how could she bear to see you? Your Majesty, Zhu Qinghuan interrupted him. Her voice soft yet resolute. My mother's final concern was the northern border war. Now that the Northern Di seek peace, asking only for a noble bride I am willing to marry. She paused, a flash of determination crossing her eyes. This was my mother's wish, and it is mine as well. The Emperor stared at her intently, as if trying to pierce through her thoughts. Have you truly made up your mind? Yes. A prolonged silence fell upon the imperial study. At last, the Emperor let out a long sigh. In half a month, I shall send you to be married with all the honors befitting a princess. He paused, his voice lowering, with phoenix coronet and embroidered robes, a dowry procession stretching 10 li. We shall never let the Northern Di look down upon you. Zhu Qinghuan kowtowed heavily. Thank you for your Majesty's grace. By the time Zhu Qinghuan returned to the general's mansion clutching the imperial decree, the sky had darkened, the mansion was brightly lit, yet it couldn't dispel the chill in her eyes. What is sister holding? Zhu Mingyu suddenly emerged from behind a pillar, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Before Zhu Qinghuan could answer, she had already reached out to snatch it. Give it back. Zhu Qinghuan swiftly reclaimed it, causing Zhu Mingyu to stumble backward. In that split second, a dark figure flashed past like a ghost, catching Zhu Mingyu firmly. It was Xiao Yunlan. Xiao Yunlan, you are my shadow guard, Zhu Qinghuan sneered, her voice dripping with icy disdain. When bandits kidnapped me for 3 days, you were nowhere to be found, yet the moment she stumbles, you appear instantly. Explain this. Xiao Yunlan's expression remained indifferent, as if discussing the most mundane matter. This subordinate was injured during those 3 days. Hence unable to protect the eldest miss. After escorting second miss back, I shall return to beg for your punishment. With these words, he swept Zhu Mingyu into his arms and strode away without so much as a backward glance at Zhu Qinghuan, watching their retreating figures. Zhu Qinghuan suddenly laughed, a sound devoid of all warmth. The laughter was faint, yet seemed to be squeezed from the deepest part of the chest, carrying an indescribable mix of mockery and sorrow. Zhu Qinghuan returned to her room, her fingers trembling as she undid the blood-stained garments. The bronze mirror reflected her body covered in wounds, bruises in shades of blue and purple, scabbed injuries, and red marks left by rope bindings. Biting her lip, she carefully applied ointment to each injury, wincing with every touch that sent sharp pangs of pain through her. After applying the medicine, she began packing her belongings. From the bottom of her chest, she retrieved a sandalwood box. Inside lay treasures, the white jade hairpin gifted by Xiao Yunlan, the handwritten notes he'd penned, the red thread he'd tied around her wrist. One by one, she cast them into the brazier. The flames devoured the past, incinerating along with them the depths of her infatuation. An unknown amount of time passed before a sudden knock sounded at the door. Zhu Qinghuan had just lifted the door latch when a sharp pain struck the back of her neck. A bone-chilling cold gradually roused Zhu Qinghuan back to consciousness. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself submerged in an icy lake, the water already rising to her chest. The cold pierced her bones like countless steel needles, leaving her entire body trembling uncontrollably. On the shore, the faint voices of the hidden guards drifted over. His Highness the Crown Prince truly cherishes the second young lady deeply, indeed. Just because the eldest young lady caused the second young lady to sprain her ankle, he ordered us to abduct her and make her soak in this frozen lake for a full day and night. Sure, keep your voice down, don't let her hear. Zhu Qinghuan felt as if struck by lightning, her entire body frozen in the icy water. Look, this is the man she had loved for so many years. For Zhu Mingyue's sake, he could throw her into a den of bandits, and now push her into a frozen lake. Zhu Qinghuan endured a full day and night in the frozen lake until her entire body went numb from the cold. When the hidden guards finally dragged her ashore, she staggered back to the mansion with heavy steps, each one feeling as if she were treading on knife blades. Just as she crossed the threshold, Zhu Mingyu came forward, holding a snow-white fox fur cloak, her eyes glinting with feigned concern. Sister, how did you let yourself get like this? Quickly put this on, don't catch cold. Zhu Qinghuan was too frozen to speak, letting her drape the cloak over her shoulders. But the next moment, a sharp pain suddenly struck. The cloak was actually filled with countless fine needles that pierced her unhealed wounds, instantly soaking her clothes with blood. Ah, she cried out in pain, shoving Zhu Mingyu away and throwing the cloak violently to the ground. Get away from me. Her white dog, Snowball, whom she had raised since childhood, caught the scent of blood and immediately rushed out, positioning itself protectively in front of her while baring its teeth and growling at Zhu Mingyu. Zhu Mingyu stumbled back in fright, tears instantly welling up in her eyes. Sister, I only meant well for you. Why did you set the dog on me? Before the words had fully left her mouth, Xiao Yunlan had already darted forward, shielding Zhu Mingyu behind him as he glared coldly at Zhu Qinghuan. First miss, what do you think you're doing? Too exhausted to argue further, Zhu Qinghuan dragged her weary body back to her own courtyard with Snowball in tow. The moment she crossed the threshold, her strength finally gave out, her vision darkened as she collapsed unconscious to the floor. Zhu Qinghuan burned with fever throughout the night, her mind hazy and confused. In her delirium, she seemed to hear Snowball scratching at the door with its paws, but when she struggled to open her eyes, the room was empty and silent. With only the candle flame flickering in the wind, Snowball, she called hoarsely, but there was no response. Summoning her strength, she rose and called for her maid. Where has Snowball gone? The maidservant stammered. Miss, last night Snowball suddenly went mad. Guard Xiao feared it might hurt someone, so he dealt with it. Dealt with it. Zhu Qinghuan suddenly gripped the edge of the bed, her knuckles turning white. What do you mean, dealt with it? It means, he beat it to death. Zhu Qinghuan's vision darkened, and she nearly collapsed. She bit her lip so hard that she tasted blood before barely managing to steady her mind. Suppressing her dizziness, she rushed out to find Xiao Yunlan. Xiao Yunlan, Zhu Qinghuan's voice trembled. Snowball has been raised by me since it was a pup. It's always been the gentlest. How could it suddenly go mad? What right did you have to kill it? Xiao Yunlan sheathed his sword, his expression indifferent. Last night it wouldn't stop barking wildly and nearly bit the second young miss. For the safety of the household, I had no choice but to eliminate it. He paused, speaking calmly. If the young lady believes this subordinate has erred, I willingly accept punishment. Zhu Qinghuan's chest heaved violently, as if pierced by countless steel needles, the pain so intense she could barely breathe. Punishment, with his status as the crown prince, who would dare lay a finger on him? She had possessed so little in this life to begin with, her mother dead, her father despising her, and now they would even take Snowball from her. Did they truly mean to drive her to her death before they'd be satisfied? Where is its body? She asked hoarsely, each word seeming to be forced through clenched teeth. The rain poured down in torrents. Zhu Qinghuan knelt beneath the tree, burying Snowball in the earth with her own hands. It had loved napping under this tree most of all, yet now it would sleep here forever. She burned its favorite dried meat and the cloth ball it used to play with as a puppy. The flames flickered in the rain, just like her shattered heart at this moment. Suddenly, an oil paper umbrella was held over her head. It's just a dog, miss. Why go to such lengths? Xiao Yunlan's voice came from behind. Zhu Qinghuan abruptly stood up and pushed his umbrella away. In your eyes, is Zhu Mingyu the only one who matters? Xiao Yunlan remained silent for a moment. This has nothing to do with the second young miss. It truly went mad. Whether it was madness or not, you know the truth in your heart. She stared directly into his eyes, each word seeming to be carved from her very soul. What you're thinking, you know that too. Xiao Yunlan's gaze darkened, the strange unease suddenly rising in his heart. Could she have discovered something? He was about to speak, but Zhu Qinghuan had already staggered away without giving him another glance. The gravestone of Snowball gradually blurred in the rain, just like her feelings for him, washed away completely by the downpour. After returning to the mansion, Zhu Qinghuan fell seriously ill. For 3 days, her high fever persisted, leaving her lying in bed in a dazed stupor. The feverish heat on her forehead blurred her vision, and in her daze, she seemed to see Snowball wagging its tail as it ran in, but when she reached out to touch it, her fingers grasped only emptiness. Young mistress, it's time for your medicine. The maid entered with a bowl of medicine, her voice so soft as if afraid to disturb something. Zhu Qinghuan struggled to prop herself up. The bitter medicine was hard to swallow, yet she didn't even furrow her brows. What was this bitterness compared to the pain in her heart? On the 4th morning, the Empress's floral banquet invitation arrived at the general's residence. Young mistress, the maid held the gilded invitation, hesitating to speak further. You're still unwell, perhaps. How could one decline Her Majesty's summons? Zhu Qinghuan forced herself to sit up, her voice hoarse. She struggled through her toilette. The face in the bronze mirror was deathly pale, with dark circles beneath the eyes. Taking up rouge, she applied it meticulously, barely managing to conceal her sickly appearance. In the imperial garden, 100 flowers vie for beauty. Zhu Qinghuan sat alone on a stone bench in the corner, her ears filled with the deliberately hushed whispers of noble ladies. I heard this flower viewing banquet is actually for selecting the crown prince's consort. In terms of family background, naturally Miss Zhu is the most suitable, but with her reputation, exactly. I heard she often bullies her half-sister at home. How could the crown prince possibly take a liking to such a vicious person? Zhu Qinghuan lowered her eyes in silence. She had long grown numb to such idle gossip. Sister, a timid voice sounded beside her. Zhu Mingyu approached with a cup of tea, her eyes deliberately ingratiating. Have some tea to soothe your throat. Zhu Qinghuan didn't even look up. No need, sister. Are you still angry with me? Zhu Mingyu's eyes instantly reddened. Her voice choked with sobs. I know I was wrong. Stay away from me, Zhu Qinghuan said coldly. Zhu Mingyu responded with a pitiful okay, but as she turned around, she accidentally knocked over the teacup. The scalding tea splashed onto Zhu Qinghuan's hand, instantly reddening the skin. Ah, Zhu Qinghuan gasped in pain, sucking in a sharp breath. Elder sister, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Zhu Mingyu wept with pear blossom-drenched tears. Please don't be angry, sister. I'll accept any punishment. The noble young ladies surrounding them all crowded closer, pointing fingers in accusation. Miss Zhu is truly too harsh. Even after Mingyu apologized, she still won't let it go. No wonder His Highness the Crown Prince can't stand her. In the shadows, Xiao Yunlan frowned but couldn't step forward due to his status. He caught sight of Zhu Qinghuan's scalded red hand, and his heart inexplicably tightened, but in an instant. That strange feeling was swept away by Zhu Mingyu's pitiful sobs. Her Majesty the Empress has arrived. As the eunuch's shrill voice rang out, the noble women in the garden all knelt in reverence. Zhu Qinghuan, despite her ailing body, forced herself to kneel along with the others. The Empress, clad in a bright yellow phoenix robe, approached slowly with the support of her palace maids. Rise, all of you. Her gaze swept gently over the assembled guests. Since today is a flower viewing banquet, I specifically instructed everyone to bring a floral-themed delicacy. I trust you've all come prepared. Upon hearing this, the noble ladies promptly presented their meticulously prepared pastries. Zhu Qinghuan offered osmanthus cakes, their golden surfaces adorned with fresh osmanthus blossoms that exuded a delicate, sweet fragrance. The Empress, attended by her palace maids, sampled each offering in turn, but when she picked up a piece to taste, just one bite made her expression suddenly change drastically. Ah, the Empress clutched her throat violently, large patches of red rashes instantly spreading across her exposed skin. She staggered back several steps before collapsing heavily onto the phoenix throne. Your Majesty. The palace maids rushed forward in panic. The scene was in complete chaos. With the noble ladies pale with fright, the imperial physician rushed over, carefully examined her, then took out a pill and fed it to the Empress. After what seemed like ages, the Empress slowly regained consciousness and weakly demanded, "What happened?" The imperial physician knelt and reported, "Your Highness, I have examined all the pastries and found that one of them contained almond powder. Since Your Highness is allergic to almonds, this is why." Outrageous. The Empress slammed her hand on the table, rattling the teacups with a clatter. "I explicitly ordered in advance that no almonds were to be used. Who dares to defy me?" Her gaze swept over the crowd like a blade. "Who made this pastry? Step forward." Zhu Qinghuan recognized at a glance that it was the food box brought by Zhu Mingyu. She turned her head and indeed saw Zhu Mingyu's face deathly pale, her kneeling body trembling slightly. It was my sister who made it." She suddenly crawled forward a few steps and kowtowed heavily. "I beg Your Highness for mercy. Spare my sister's life." Zhu Qinghuan felt as if struck by lightning, her ears ringing violently. She stared fixedly at Zhu Mingyu's pitifully delicate face, enunciating each word deliberately. "Zhu Mingyu, say that again. This was clearly made by your own hands, elder sister." Zhu Mingyu raised her tear-filled eyes, her voice choked with sobs. "In the past, you made me take the blame for you, and I endured it. But this time it concerns Her Majesty the Empress's health. Mingyu truly dares not." As she spoke, she kowtowed heavily again, her forehead already turning red. "You," Zhu Qinghuan trembled with rage, her fingertips digging deep into her palms. "How can you be so shameless?" "Enough," the Empress snapped sharply, her phoenix eyes blazing with anger. "This racket is giving me a headache." Her gaze shifted to Xiao Yunlan. "As the Zhu family's shadow guard, you know best. Tell me, who exactly made this pastry?" The garden fell into complete silence, with all eyes fixed upon Xiao Yunlan. Xiao Yunlan stood with his head slightly bowed, his dark robes casting cold reflections under the sunlight, making him appear even more aloof and detached. He remained silent for a moment before parting his thin lips slightly. "It was the young mistress who did it." "What did you say?" Zhu Qinghuan's voice trembled, her eyes filled with disbelief as she stared fixedly at Xiao Yunlan, as if trying to see through him. "It was the young mistress." Xiao Yunlan raised his gaze, his eyes firm and icy, devoid of any warmth. At that moment, Zhu Qinghuan felt the world spinning around her. a deafening buzz ringing in her ears, Zhu Qinghuan staggered back a step, her lips curling into a bleak smile. So even those with dead hearts can still feel pain. Guards! The Empress's furious shout exploded in her ears. For attempting to murder me, 100 lashes. Zhu Qinghuan stood where she was, neither begging for mercy nor offering any defense. She simply stared at Xiao Yunlan, at this man who had once vowed to protect her for a lifetime, now personally delivering her to the execution platform. The most painful thing, it turned out, wasn't his betrayal, but that she could still feel pain from his betrayal. The sound of the whip cutting through the air echoed through the imperial garden. Slap! With the first lash, Zhu Qinghuan's back split open instantly. Flesh torn, she clenched her teeth, refusing to let out a single cry. Slap! The second lash followed in quick succession, blood soaking through her garments. Will you admit your wrongs? The executioner guard demanded. I've done nothing wrong. Zhu Qinghuan gritted through clenched teeth. Thwack, 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 lash after lash. Zhu Qinghuan's back was already a bloody mess. Her vision began to blur, leaving only the whistling sound of the whip and the pounding of her own heartbeat in her ears. By the 30th lash, her vision had completely blurred, a buzzing filled her ears, and she could barely make out the shocked gasps of the noble ladies around her. Heavens, so much blood, why won't she just admit her mistake? After 50 lashes, her knees could no longer support her, and she collapsed heavily to the ground. Admit your fault, the guard shouted again. Zhu Qinghan raised her head, a trickle of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. I did nothing wrong. Her gaze pierced through the crowd and landed on Xiao Yunlan. He stood there, expressionless, with not a ripple in his eyes. By the 70th lash, Zhu Qinghuan's consciousness began to blur. She seemed to see her mother and Snowball standing in the distance, gazing at her tenderly. Mother, she sobbed in a whisper. It hurt so much. As the final lash fell, Zhu Qinghuan could hold on no longer. Darkness swept over her vision as she completely lost consciousness. When she woke again, she found herself lying in a swaying carriage. The wound on her back burned with a searing pain, each jolt of the carriage threatening to tear her apart. With great effort, she opened her eyes. Through her blurred vision, she saw Xiao Yunlan carefully supporting Zhu Mingyu, gently wiping the sweat from her temples. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? Zhu Qinghuan's voice was hoarse and broken, each word seeming to be wrenched from the depths of her chest. Xiao Yunlan paused in his movements without turning back. The second young lady is delicate and frail. She cannot endure such punishment. The eldest young lady is a general's daughter, strong and robust. Moreover, Father Zhu has instructed us to take good care of the second young lady. Zhu Qinghuan's eyes reddened as she trembled, struggling to prop herself up. Xiao Yunlan, don't forget whose family's shadow guard you are. Don't forget who it was that saved you from the brink of death back then. Xiao Yunlan fell silent for a moment. This subordinate is at fault. If the eldest young lady wishes to blame me, I will willingly accept punishment. You know perfectly well I can't punish you. Zhu Qinghuan wept in despair, her voice fragmented and broken. Xiao Yunlan froze. This was the first time he had seen Zhu Qinghuan cry. Why couldn't he be punished? Was it because she loved him so deeply that she couldn't bear to see him suffer even the slightest harm? This thought sent an inexplicable tremor through his heart. It's all my fault. Zhu Mingyu suddenly sobbed. I'm the one who harmed my sister. I should be the one getting hurt and dying. Just as Zhu Qinghuan was about to speak, the carriage suddenly jolted violently. Watch out! Xiao Yunlan's expression changed abruptly as he scooped up Zhu Mingyu and leaped out of the carriage. Zhu Qinghuan, covered in wounds, had no time to dodge. She watched helplessly as Xiao Yunlan landed steadily with Zhu Mingyu in his arms, not even turning his head. As the carriage plunged toward the cliff, Zhu Qinghuan suddenly smiled. Perhaps it's for the best. Mother, your daughter has finally come to be with you. When Zhu Qinghuan opened her eyes again, she found herself still alive. She lay on the familiar bed, her wounds carefully bandaged. The sunlight streaming through the window stung her eyes. Instinctively, she tried to raise her hand to shield them, only to find thick gauze wrapped around her wrist, a sharp pain shooting through her with every movement. Awake, a deep voice came from beside the bed, and only then did Zhu Qinghuan notice Xiao Yunlan had been keeping vigil there. He held a bowl of medicine in his hands, and seeing her awake, immediately leaned over to gently help her sit up. Drink this, he said, bringing the medicine bowl to her lips. Zhu Qinghuan froze. The Xiao Yunlan of old had always been cold and distant toward her. Even when she took the initiative to approach him, he would retreat with the excuse of status differences. Now, his sudden gentleness and attentiveness felt unfamiliar and unsettling. She turned her head away from the medicine bowl, her voice hoarse. Why are you watching over me? Xiao Yunlan paused, lowering his gaze. That day, it was my failure in duty. I couldn't save the young lady from the carriage. leaving you unconscious at the foot of the cliff for a full day and night before you were found. The fault is mine, Zhu Qinghuan sneered. So, you're atoning for your sins? Xiao Yunlan didn't answer, merely pushing the medicine bowl closer. Drink. Zhu Qinghuan stared into his eyes, searching for something, but saw only an unfathomable darkness. In the dead of night, Zhu Qinghuan was jolted awake by a sharp pain in his wrist. In her dazed state, she felt the cold blade slide across her wrist, warm blood gushing from the wound. She wanted to struggle, but found her limbs weak and powerless. Had she been drugged? The second young miss was bitten by a GU insect and has been unconscious for days. The imperial physician's voice rang with peculiar clarity in the darkness. With fresh blood from a blood relative now, she's certain to recover quickly. Keep cutting. Xiao Yunlan's voice was as cold as tempered ice. Don't stop. But your highness, the imperial physician hesitated. The young lady is already severely injured and hasn't recovered. If she loses more blood like this, I fear. I said continue. Xiao Yunlan sharply interrupted, each word stabbing Zhu Qinghuan's heart like a knife. Mingyu cannot be harmed. Zhu Qinghuan's heart felt as if it were being torn apart. At last she understood the reason behind Xiao Yunlan's sudden gentleness these past few days. It was all to make her recover quickly, so he could take her blood to save Zhu Mingyu. She wanted to struggle, to scream, but the drug's effect left her paralyzed, forced to watch helplessly as her blood slowly drained away. In her dazed state, she heard Xiao Yunlan whisper tenderly to Zhu Mingyu, "Don't be afraid, it'll be over soon." He had never spoken to her with such tenderness in his voice. When Zhu Qinghuan regained consciousness, she heard her maid weeping by the bedside. The young mistress is getting worse, but the master has called all the physicians to attend to the second young mistress, refusing to spare even one for Our Lady. The maid sobbed, "Our Lady is the legitimate daughter, how can they treat her like this? And that Xiao guard, he was supposed to be Our Lady's shadow guard. Yet now he guards the second young mistress without leaving her side. Does he even remember who he truly serves? Young mistress, you cared for him so deeply, yet is utterly unworthy." Zhu Qinghuan closed her eyes, tears silently streaming down. Yes, her entire life was simply not worth it. Her father treated her like dirt. The one she loved used her as a medicinal catalyst, and even her very life was merely a tool for others to prolong theirs. She lay in bed in a daze for several days, her high fever coming and going, drifting between lucidity and unconsciousness. "Every time I wake up, I feel one step closer to death." But in the end, she made it through. Just like countless times before, she crawled her way out of hell once more. When Zhu Qinghuan awoke, the sunlight outside the window was just right. "Miss, you're finally awake." The maid rushed to the bedside with reddened eyes. "You've been unconscious for 3 days. You scared me to death." Zhu Qinghuan slowly sat up, only then noticing that Xiao Yunlan was actually keeping vigil by her bedside. When he saw her awaken, a complicated expression flickered through his eyes. "These past few days," she asked hoarsely, deliberately probing. "Where have you been?" Xiao Yunlan was slightly taken aback. "The second miss is unconscious from GU poisoning. I'm taking care of her." "Oh," Zhu Qinghuan responded indifferently, then turned to look out the window, offering no further words. Xiao Yunlan's heart inexplicably tightened. In the past, such an answer would have provoked relentless questioning from her, even domineering declarations like "it's fine if you don't like me, but you absolutely mustn't like Zhu Mingyu." But now, only lifelessness remained in her eyes, as if she couldn't care less about his whereabouts. "Tonight is the Lantern Festival." Xiao Yunlan suddenly spoke up. "Would the young mistress allow this subordinate to accompany you?" Zhu Qinghuan's fingertips trembled slightly. How many festivals had passed where she begged and pleaded for him to set aside his identity as a shadow guard, to accompany her to the Lantern Fair like an ordinary young master, yet he always refused with a cold expression, saying our statuses differ. Now that she didn't want to go, he was the one who brought it up first. Night fell, and the city was ablaze with lights as bright as day. Zhu Qinghuan walked silently down the street, with Xiao Yunlan following half a step behind her. Street vendors called out their wares incessantly, children ran about carrying lanterns, and everywhere was filled with festive joy. Cheers echoed from the distance as a street performer dazzled the crowd with a fiery display, sending sparks flying through the night sky in brilliant arcs that drew continuous applause from the onlookers. Zhu Qinghuan stood at the edge of the crowd, quietly admiring the spectacle. Xiao Yunlan remained by her side, though his gaze kept drifting toward the front of the gathering. Zhu Mingyu had somehow slipped out of the estate unnoticed and was now eagerly pushing forward, nearly reaching the front row. Watching her joyful excitement, an unconscious smile tugged at the corners of his lips. "Watch out!" A spark suddenly flew out, shooting straight towards Zhu Mingyu's face. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yunlan leaped forward, shielding Zhu Mingyu with his body. With a sizzling sound, The spark burned through his back, instantly filling the air with the smell of scorched flesh. Brother Xiao, Zhu Mingyu cried out in alarm, frantically checking his injuries. Are you okay? Does it hurt? Xiao Yunlan's expression remained unchanged. It's nothing, as long as the second miss is unharmed. The back of his robe had been burned through, revealing a bloody wound beneath. Yet he seemed impervious to the pain as he insisted on accompanying Zhu Mingyu to watch the performance to its end. Zhu Qinghuan stood where she was, quietly observing the scene. Suddenly, she recalled last year's Lantern Festival, when she accidentally scalded the back of her hand with hot tea. Xiao Yunlan had merely glanced at it indifferently, uttered a perfunctory "be careful, eldest miss," and left it at that. It turns out he wasn't incapable of tenderness, just that his tenderness wasn't meant for her. On the way back to the estate, Xiao Yunlan kept turning his head, his gaze lingering in the direction where Zhu Mingyu had departed. Had enough of looking, Zhu Qinghuan suddenly spoke, her voice eerily calm. Xiao Yunlan froze, attempting to explain, "Miss, but Zhu Qinghuan had already turned and left, her receding figure resolute and solitary, soon vanishing into the night. Xiao Yunlan stood rooted to the spot, the wounds on his back burning fiercely, yet an indescribable restlessness welled up in his heart. As the day of her marriage drew nearer, Zhu Qinghuan began packing her dowry during Xiao Yunlan's absences. One by one, she placed her mother's keepsakes into the wedding chests. The white jade hairpin was a gift from her mother when she first taught her martial arts. The embroidered handkerchief was stitched by her mother's own hands. And that wedding dress was left to her by her mother before she went to battle for the last time. Zhu Qinghuan carefully took out the wedding dress and held it up in front of the bronze mirror. 5 years had passed, and her figure was slimmer than before, so the dress needed some alterations. As she measured her waist carefully, she realized she was short of some gold thread, so she went out to buy some. But when she returned, she saw Zhu Mingyu holding her wedding dress. Scissors snipping clip as the fabric was shredded to pieces. Zhu Mingyu, Zhu Qinghuan rushed forward, her voice trembling. "Stop!" Zhu Mingyu cut the last intact piece of fabric, tilting her head with an innocent smile. "Not even betrothed yet, and already so eager to take out your wedding dress. How shameless." She blinked, her tone light and airy. "Sister, don't tell me you want to marry Brother Xiao. Is a lowly bodyguard really worth such desperation? What a pity even he prefers me." Zhu Qinghuan stared at the scattered fragments on the ground, the last memento her mother had left her. Trembling all over, she grabbed Zhu Mingyu by the throat. "You owe me my wedding dress. Brother Xiao, help me." Zhu Mingyu hadn't expected her to be so enraged and panicked instantly, struggling and crying out in alarm. The door was violently kicked open as Xiao Yunlan burst in like a whirlwind, shoving Zhu Qinghuan aside with one forceful motion. Zhu Qinghuan's head struck the corner of the table with a heavy thud, blood trickling down her temple and staining half her face crimson. "Second miss, are you hurt?" Xiao Yunlan anxiously examined Zhu Mingyu's neck before swiftly carrying her away, not even sparing a glance at the blood-covered Zhu Qinghuan. She trembled as she knelt on the ground, picking up the shredded pieces of her wedding dress one by one. Her mother's voice and smile seemed to still linger before her eyes. "Qinghuan, wait for mother to return and see you in this wedding dress." But now, the dress was torn to pieces, and mother would never come back. Zhu Qinghuan clutched the fragments tightly to her chest, weeping with heart-wrenching sobs. She didn't know how long she had been crying until her tears ran dry, then forced herself to apply medicine and bandage her wounds. "Young mistress, the master requests your presence in the front hall," the maid announced with reddened eyes. Zhu Qinghuan dragged her injured body to the front hall. Before she could steady herself, a teacup shattered at her feet. "Kneel!" Father Zhu roared in fury. "What wrong has my daughter committed?" Zhu Qinghuan straightened her back, her voice hoarse. "How dare you play dumb? Just because Mingyu accidentally ruined one of your dresses. You burned all her clothes." Father Zhu pointed at her nose and scolded. "Do you still have any semblance of a proper daughter from the general's manor?" Zhu Qinghuan sneered. "I've been applying medicine in my room the whole time and never set foot in her courtyard. Still lying through your teeth." Father Zhu refused to believe her. "Guards, 30 military rod strikes. Let this serve as a warning to others." The courtyard quickly filled with people. Servants whispered among themselves. "This is too cruel. The young mistress's head wound is still bleeding. Just a few pieces of clothing. Was such severe punishment really necessary?" Sure, an elderly maidservant nearby hastily intervened. "The master has always played favorites. You mustn't speak such words carelessly." Zhu Qinghuan was pressed down on the punishment bench as the military rod came crashing down. Slap! The first strike landed on her back, the excruciating pain making her vision darken in waves. Slap! By the second strike, blood had already soaked through her thin garment, spreading a glaring crimson stain across the light-colored fabric. She gripped the edge of the bench with white-knuckled force, her fingers turning pale from the strain, yet she clenched her teeth tightly, refusing to utter a single cry of pain. By the 18th strike, Lord Zhu's expression remained impassive. Xiao Yunlan stood in the shadows beneath the corridor, his slender fingers absently stroking his sword hilt, yet his gaze never once turned toward the figure on the punishment bench. Father. Zhu Mingyu suddenly burst from the crowd and threw herself over Zhu Qinghuan. Stop, you'll beat her to death. Slap. The final strike landed heavily on Mingyu's back. Mingyu. The usually indifferent Lord Zhu and Xiao Yunlan cried out in unison. Father Zhu rushed forward in a single stride and scooped up his youngest daughter in his arms. Xiao Yunlan quickly followed, and the entire crowd noisily trailed behind, not a single one turning back to glance at Zhu Qinghuan, who lay barely breathing on the punishment bench. A low rumble of thunder rolled across the horizon, and suddenly, raindrops as large as beans began to pelt down. Zhu Qinghuan's blood mingled with the rainwater, meandering across the bluestone pavement until it formed a shocking, crimson pool. Miss. Her personal maid came running in tears, her frail body straining to carry her on her back. This servant will take you back. Back in the room, the maid applied medicine while sobbing. Why didn't you explain? Explain. Zhu Qinghuan gazed at the torrential rain outside the window and suddenly laughed, a smile uglier than tears, filled with indescribable desolation. Would it make any difference? From now on, she would never explain anything to unworthy people again. Zhu Qinghuan's injuries took several days to heal. As her wedding day approached, she changed into plain clothes and went alone to the cemetery on the outskirts of the city, before her mother's tombstone. She knelt down and gently brushed away the fallen leaves from the stone. Mother, she poured a pot of clear wine before the tomb. Your daughter is getting married, to the northern DI. She smiled, her eyes resolute. You worried most about the northern border conflicts during your lifetime. Now your daughter will fulfill this wish for you. The mountain breeze swept by, carrying away her unfinished words, when she returned to the mansion. The general's residence was adorned with lanterns and colored banners, brimming with festive joy. They say it's about arranging a marriage for the second young miss. So many noble young masters have come to propose. What good fortune the second young miss has. The servant's gossip reached Zhu Qinghuan's ears, but her steps didn't falter as she headed straight for her own courtyard. Young miss. Xiao Yunlan appeared unexpectedly beneath the corridor, his brow slightly furrowed. Why didn't you call me when you went out? No need to trouble yourself, Zhu Qinghan replied flatly. I can manage on my own. Xiao Yunlan studied her for a moment before suddenly saying, why must the eldest young lady always target the second young lady? First you pushed her, and now you deliberately ruined her clothes. The grudges of the previous generation have nothing to do with her. Your mother's death wasn't her fault either. She laughed, a laugh that made her heart ache. All these years, who exactly has been bullying whom? Zhu Qinghuan wearily closed her eyes for a moment, the corners of her lips curling into a self-mocking smile. Rest assured, I will never bully her again. The words sounded strange, just as Xiao Yunlan was about to press for details. Zhu Qinghuan had already walked past him toward the courtyard. Wait, first miss, Xiao Yunlan called after her. This subordinate has some family matters to attend to recently and needs to request leave for a few days. Zhu Qinghuan paused slightly in her steps without turning back. As you wish. She knew he was anxious. With Zhu Mingyu's marriage negotiations imminent, he must be rushing to reclaim his status as crown prince so he could propose. But all this had nothing to do with her anymore. Xiao Yunlan watched her figure disappear behind the courtyard gate. An inexplicable restlessness rising in his heart. He couldn't shake the feeling that something about Zhu Qinghuan seemed different since his return, but for now, he had more pressing matters to attend to. As Xiao Yunlan turned and walked away, he didn't see Zhu Qinghuan standing behind the courtyard gate, watching his retreating figure, the last glimmer of light in her eyes finally extinguishing. At dawn the next day, as the first light of morning tinged the horizon, Zhu Qinghuan changed into the wedding gown sent from the imperial palace. The crimson bridal dress was exquisitely embroidered with golden phoenixes, radiating unparalleled luxury. Her maidservants carefully attended to her makeup. When the phoenix crown was placed upon her head, its beaded veil cascaded down, concealing her pallid complexion. Miss, it's time to depart. Zhu Qinghuan gave a soft acknowledgement. Casting one last glance at the courtyard she had called home for over a decade before turning to step onto the palanquin, the entire capital was adorned with lanterns and colorful decorations, with red silk banners fluttering everywhere. The wedding procession stretched for miles, the sounds of music and celebration echoing to the heavens. Xiao Yunlan, dressed in the crown prince's ceremonial robes, was at a tea house buying Zhu Mingyu's favorite pastries. He planned to propose at the general's residence today and reveal his true identity to Zhu Mingyu. The clamor outside was simply too loud, making him involuntarily furrow his brows. Whose wedding is today? Such a grand spectacle. He rarely summoned his shadow guard to inquire. The shadow guard knelt on one knee. "Your Highness, it is Princess Jiahui's marriage to the Northern Di. Princess Jiahui." Xiao Yunlan's brows knitted even tighter. "Why have I never heard of this princess before?" The shadow guard hesitated for a moment before turning to inquire. He returned shortly with an odd expression. "Your Highness, Princess Jiahui is Miss Ju. She volunteered to marry the Northern Di, and His Majesty specially bestowed upon her the title Jiahui." Xiao Yunlan was as if struck by lightning, standing frozen in place, unable for a long while to process what he had just heard. His eyes darkened, rapidly brewing with danger. He grabbed the hidden guard by the collar and demanded sharply, "Have you been bribed by Zhu Qinghuan? Otherwise, why would you speak for her? I've stayed at the Zhu family for so long and never heard of her being sent for a political marriage. Even her family doesn't know about it. Could it be that you know more than I do? How much silver did Zhu Qinghuan give you to bribe you? When did you two meet?" One question after another bombarded the hidden guard, leaving him utterly bewildered. He quickly knelt on the ground to respond. "Your Highness, I swear I'm not lying, and I've never had any dealings with Miss Ju. The Princess Jiahui who's going to the marriage alliance is indeed Miss Ju. I only learned of this today myself. If you don't believe me, Your Highness can ask others." The shadow guard looked utterly sincere, clearly not lying and incapable of lying. Countless thoughts flashed through Xiao Yunlan's mind. A nameless panic rising in his heart as if something profoundly important was slipping away at this very moment. Time was running out, the marriage procession had already reached the city gates. He barely had time to think before whistling for his Fergana horse, leaping onto its back and galloping toward the city gates. Your Highness, be reasonable. The marriage alliance cannot be altered or stopped," the hidden guards shouted after Xiao Yunlan. But not even a glance was spared in return. Faster still. Zhu Qinghuan should never have gone for that political marriage. Xiao Yunlan rushed to the city gates at top speed, while spectators lining the streets murmured disapprovingly, blaming him for disrupting their grand occasion. The princess's political marriage had showered the entire city with a rain of gold fragments, whether for the scattered wealth or to partake in the wedding's auspicious energy. The commoners had been scrambling to collect them. Xiao Yunlan's interruption drew waves of resentment from the crowd, their complaints rising like angry tides. But he couldn't care less about that now. When he finally reached the city gate, he happened to witness the officials bidding farewell to Zhu Qinghuan. "May Princess Jiahui have a safe journey, foster friendship between our two nations, and bring about a golden age of peace for all under heaven." The civil and military officials bowed in unison to see her off, each showing utmost respect. Zhu Qinghuan gently lifted the red veil of her palanquin and gazed at the officials from afar, unsurprised to spot her father among them. She merely curved her lips calmly. "Rise. Please, it is time for this princess to be wed. All officials should return now." Her clear, icy voice fell upon the ears of everyone present. Father Zhu stood frozen in shock. His eyes wide as he stared at the person on the palanquin, his lips moving unconsciously. Zhu Qinghuan, he couldn't suppress the turmoil in his heart or the fury of being kept in the dark, instinctively taking a step forward. Yet before he could reach Zhu Qinghuan's palanquin, Xiao Yunlan came galloping on horseback. At the sight of her, resplendent in phoenix crown and ceremonial robes, her beauty as breathtaking as a painting, Xiao Yunlan was momentarily transfixed. Then he dismounted, stepped into her palanquin, and extended his hand toward her. "Zhu Qinghuan, are you truly willing to go for this political marriage? If my father is pressuring you, forcing you into this alliance, come with me now, I'll find a way to help you." His broad palm, with its distinct knuckles, bore a thin layer of calluses, marks left by years of martial training. In the past, Zhu Qinghuan would have yearned desperately for him to reach out his hand like this. To take her away to a place just for the two of them, where they could live simply for the rest of their lives. But after all that had happened, she had long since lost all hope in him. Her heart turned to stone. He didn't love her. His heart belonged to her half-sister Zhu Mingyu. The only reason he came to take her away now was out of gratitude for past kindness. Zhu Qinghuan smiled faintly, her hands folded gently before her waist as she spoke slowly. "Your Highness the Crown Prince, you finally admitted your true identity, but I am now His Majesty's personally appointed Princess Jiahui. This marriage alliance was my own request. I have no unwillingness whatsoever. Our statuses now stand in stark contrast. The marriage alliance is already decided, and no one can alter it, not even you. The road to the Northern Di is long and treacherous. Your Highness the Crown Prince, you should turn back now, lest the court officials impeach you tomorrow." Her eyes held a faint trace of mockery as she decisively lowered the veil and covered her head with the red bridal cloth. Xiao Yunlan gripped the railing so tightly it seemed he might crush it to splinters. Her words felt like a bucket of icy water poured over his head, leaving his entire body frozen in a chilling numbness. How could this be? Zhu Qinghuan had long known his true identity, yet she willingly agreed to the political marriage. One devastating news after another nearly crushed him completely. Just as he was about to speak again, Zhu Qinghuan waved her pale hand dismissively. And several guards escorting the marriage procession repeatedly urged Xiao Yunlan to leave. Your Highness the Crown Prince, by His Majesty's decree, anyone who dares disturb the marriage procession today shall be executed without exception. We beg your Highness to return. As he spoke, the guard produced the tokens specially bestowed by the Emperor. Xiao Yunlan's expression darkened inch by inch, his eyes deep and unfathomable. What if I insist on sending someone else for the marriage alliance today? Then don't blame me for being ruthless. The Emperor's majestic voice came from behind, and Xiao Yunlan's expression turned complicated. His thin lips moved slightly as he was about to speak. The Emperor's hidden guards swiftly knocked Xiao Yunlan unconscious and carried him away with lightning speed. As the tall figure collapsed, the Emperor glared at Xiao Yunlan in frustration, thinking to himself, those who indulge in love affairs are unfit for great responsibilities. If you truly cared so much, why didn't you step forward to stop it before? Why must it be at this very moment? The Emperor waved his hand grandly, signaling for Xiao Yunlan to be taken away and for Zhu Qinghuan to be sent off to her wedding. The marriage procession headed north, leaving the capital behind along with all its love and hatred. After a journey filled with hardships, Zhu Qinghuan successfully arrived in Beide. Beide was bitterly cold. The welcoming party all wore thick fur coats, their bronze cheeks reddened by the frost, yet their eyes were as fierce as wild beasts. Their gazes never wavered, all attention fixed solely on the leading monarch. The newly appointed Northern Di King stood robust as a small mountain, his form-fitting garment meticulously crafted from premium wolf pelts and fine fabrics, accentuating his solid, inverted triangle physique. His hair was entirely braided into countless small plaits, swept back to fully reveal his sharply defined, formidable features. His amber-hued eyes, narrow and falcon-like in their piercing intensity, swept over each person with overwhelming dominance. But it was quite obvious that his left shoulder was unnaturally stiff. Zhu Qinghuan suddenly remembered that the Northern Di and Shang dynasty had been locked in continuous warfare recently. With other neighboring countries also joining the chaotic battles, the Northern Di monarch fought alone against 10,000, like an extremely lethal weapon of mass destruction. Countless people feared his power and joined forces to besiege him. After all, he was still flesh and blood, exhausted from the relentless wars. He momentarily let his guard down and suffered severe injuries, likely to his left shoulder and heart, forcing him to seek peace with the Shang dynasty. Moreover, the continued war between the Northern Di and the Shang dynasty has caused countless casualties and drained both nations' resources, which benefits neither side. Now that spring and summer are approaching, they too must seize this opportunity to recuperate. Zhu Qinghuan gradually withdrew her gaze from the Northern Di monarch and, with the help of her maidservant, stepped down from the sedan chair. Zhu Qinghuan, Princess Zhaohui of the Shang dynasty, has come here to establish a marriage alliance. Greetings to the Northern Di monarch. She performed a grand ceremonial bow with utmost reverence. The Northern Di monarch raised an eyebrow and drew a gleaming whip from his waist. Countless accompanying officials and attendants grew instantly alert, swiftly forming a protective circle around Zhu Qinghuan, as if he intended to commit some act of harm against her. Zhu Qinghuan remained unperturbed, staring directly at the Northern Di monarch. Seeing her composure, the other party actually chuckled lightly. They're all afraid, aren't you? What is there to fear? I came here for a peace marriage. If I die here, the Shang dynasty and Northern Di will become enemies again, resulting in mutual destruction and countless casualties. You won't touch me. She gazed at him calmly, their eyes meeting with sparks flying between them. Suddenly, the Northern Di monarch's whip came lashing through the air toward Zhu Qinghuan. She didn't even blink. Yet those around them simultaneously felt their hearts tighten, instinctively closing their eyes. The next moment, the whip seemed to come alive, coiling several times around Zhu Qinghuan's waist. With a forceful tug, a large hand gripped her waist and pulled her into his embrace. A cold and domineering aura enveloped Zhu Qinghuan entirely, causing her to instinctively lift her gaze to his stern face. The distance between them was a little too close, so close that their breaths intertwined. And she could even make out a faint scar on the peak of his left eyebrow. Jing Gul, my name. Scorching breath sprayed against Zhu Qinghuan's neck, the deep, hoarse voice sending tremors through her ears. Only belatedly did she realize he had told her his name. Before she could gather her thoughts, Jing Gul seized her lips in a domineering, forceful kiss. His large hand cradled the back of her head as his tongue plunged deeper. The kiss growing wild and beastly, as if he wanted to devour her whole. Amidst their tangled lips and teeth, While Zhu Qinghuan's consciousness blurred, he single-handedly removed a string of wolf-tooth necklaces from his own neck and fastened it around hers, as if declaring to everyone that Zhu Qinghuan now belonged to him. The people of Shang dynasty instinctively widened their eyes in shock, while those from Northern Di remained unfazed, even cheering enthusiastically. A puzzled official quietly asked a Northern Di tribesman the reason behind this. The Northern Di man laughed heartily. "This naturally means our king has acknowledged the princess. She's the first girl to ever receive the king's wolf-tooth necklace." Others chimed in agreement. "Exactly. The wolf-tooth necklace is only given to one's beloved. How many people long for such an honor but never receive it? These past years, the king has been preoccupied with battles and warfare. Showing no interest in romantic affairs, countless suitors couldn't even earn a special glance from him. The Shang dynasty princess must truly be extraordinary." "Absolutely. Though if I had to choose, I'd also prefer the beautiful Shang dynasty princess. Northern Di women are too wild and domineering, while most Shang dynasty women are timid and weak. This princess is truly one of a kind." Hearing these words, the officials and attendants from the Shang dynasty escorting the bride finally began to relax slightly. Zhu Qinghuan was held in Jing Jiula's arms as they rode back to the palace together on a single horse. The cold wind howled past her ears, making her wedding dress flutter wildly, yet she felt not a trace of fear. Her heart was instead profoundly at peace. She knew she had passed the test with the Northern Di king today. The future relationship between the Shang dynasty and the Northern Di would still require her efforts. "Mother, one day I will fulfill your wish to bring peace to the world and prosperity to the people." Zhu Qinghuan gazed into the distance, silently thinking to herself. In the Northern Di palace, officials and warriors set aside all formalities, singing and dancing to welcome their monarch and queen. Under the gaze of countless witnesses, Zhu Qinghuan and Jing Gul held their grand wedding ceremony. Hand in hand, the couple bowed to the heavenly gods and drank from the shared nuptial cup. Ignoring all onlookers, Jing Gul swept Zhu Qinghuan off her feet and carried her straight back to the royal bedchamber. The entire journey was devoid of people, and Zhu Qinghuan's clothes fell to the ground one by one following Jing Jiula's movements. The bedchamber was warm and cozy. Even without a stitch of clothing, one wouldn't feel the slightest chill. The Northern Di people had always been strong-willed and unrestrained. When they took a liking to someone, they would spend a passionate night together if the other agreed. If they were compatible, they would marry. If not, they would act as if nothing had ever happened. Jing Jiula was the exception. For never before had anyone caught her eye. Now he forcefully pressed the completely naked Zhu Qinghuan onto the bed, his eyes dark with desire, yet he stubbornly asked once more, "Are you willing?" "With all my heart," she replied, her face flushed with shyness, nodding firmly. The next moment, Jing Jiula kissed her lips again. The sounds of passion in the bedchamber lasted the entire night before finally coming to an end. They called for water countless times during the night, and after brief rests, the sounds would start anew without end. The maids waiting outside the door blushed crimson, each silently marveling at the intensity of their passion the night before. Zhu Qinghuan was so exhausted she couldn't even lift a finger, her fair skin covered densely with love bites. Beside her, the beast-like man held her tightly, as if guarding a priceless treasure, wishing he could meld her into his very bones. Zhu Qinghuan was sleeping so soundly that she had no strength to move, completely at his mercy as he held her. Her mind felt heavy and muddled, sinking deeply into the realm of dreams. Meanwhile, upon learning that she had completely left the capital and headed for the Northern Di, Xiao Yunlan suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. With a darkened expression, he grabbed a hidden guard and demanded, "Didn't Zhu Qinghuan always adore me? How could she willingly go for a political marriage? Does she not know how dangerous the Northern Di is? Isn't she afraid of being devoured without even bones left?" The shadow guard trembled with fear, not daring to speak the truth, and only reluctantly replied, "This subordinate does not know." Xiao Yunlan didn't actually expect the shadow guard to provide any useful answer. He abruptly flung the shadow guard aside and slammed his palm heavily onto a nearby table, which instantly shattered into pieces. Hair. His eyes burned crimson as he let out a cold, mocking laugh. "Zhu Qinghuan, I know you adore me and are jealous of my kindness toward Ming Yu. You made a foolish choice to go for a political marriage in a moment of confusion. I'll wait for the day you regret it and come begging for help." With that, Xiao Yunlan glanced at the shadow guard and issued his command, "Keep an eye on Zhu Qinghuan. If she regrets her decision and cries for help, find another woman to take her place and rescue her. Consider it repayment for her past act of saving my life. Once that's done, all debts between her and me will be settled. And I can marry Ming Yu without any distractions." "Yes," the shadow guard nodded obediently, though he couldn't help but mutter to himself, "Miss Zhu, the eldest daughter of the Zhu family, doesn't seem like someone who'd act out of momentary jealousy. If she had known the truth, that your highness concealed your identity to stay by her side, would she still have adored you? Because of your highness, she's suffered so many injuries and endured so much injustice. If she knew everything, how could she possibly still cry for help? Perhaps marrying into the Northern DI would be her only escape. After all, he was just a shadow guard. No matter how much he thought about it, he dared not speak directly to the crown prince. His master's thoughts were not something he could influence. Xiao Yunlan waited for several days in a row, but no news came from Zhu Qinghuan. She showed no intention of asking him for help. By his calculations, Zhu Qinghuan should have already arrived in Beidi and married its ruler. Her lack of a distress signal meant she had truly wed the king of Beidi. Without a trace of regret or resentment, she had truly married another man. After realizing this truth, Xiao Yunlan felt an indescribable bitterness in his heart. An overwhelming sourness nearly swallowed him whole, pressing down on him until he could barely breathe. A dense, prickling pain spread through his chest, not sharp, but impossible to ignore. Its presence unbearably strong. After taking several deep breaths, Xiao Yunlan pinched the bridge of his nose and steeled himself to cast all thoughts of Zhu Qinghuan aside. Since she was so ungrateful, he no longer needed to consider her feelings. He was curious to see when she would finally regret it. However, the next day, Xiao Yunlan couldn't help but ask his shadow guard, "Has the agent sent to Northern DI reported back? Did Zhu Qinghuan show any regret today?" The shadow guard shook his head nervously. "Your Highness, not only does Miss Zhu show no regret, but she also gets along well with the king of the Northern DI tribe. She has never mentioned you even once." By the time he reached the last few words, the secret guard's voice grew increasingly faint, as soft as a mosquito's hum, almost inaudible. Yet Xiao Yunlan heard every word clearly. With a darkened expression, he crushed the porcelain cup in his hand with sheer force. "Don't bother with her, she'll regret it sooner or later." Though he said this, he still sent someone to try persuading Zhu Qinghuan. He simply didn't want to see her suffer under the Northern DI king's torment. Xiao Yunlan tried hard to convince himself of this. He then glanced at the betrothal gifts carried in by the eunuchs, a glint of satisfaction flashing in his eyes. The lead eunuch bowed respectfully. "Your Highness, the betrothal gifts for the second miss of the Zhu family have all arrived. Today is her second matchmaking session, it's time to go." Xiao Yunlan nodded casually, checked his attire in the bronze mirror to ensure everything was in place, and then boarded the carriage. He casually tossed out another remark. "You did well last time in ruining Mingyue's engagement. You shall be handsomely rewarded." "Many thanks, Your Highness." The eunuch immediately grinned from ear to ear, bowing repeatedly in thanks. He had merely gone to those few families, one by one, and greeted them, claiming that Miss Zhu was favored by a noble. They had all understood and ceased their intentions of continuing marriage negotiations with the Zhu family. That was why this second marriage proposal came about. If only such good fortune would happen a second time, he could once again receive such a reward and be appreciated by His Highness the Crown Prince. Xiao Yunlan paid no heed to the eunuch's thoughts, simply proceeding to the Zhu family with a dowry that flowed like water. The other families who had come to propose marriage witnessed this scene and all felt they paled in comparison. His Highness the Crown Prince has come in person to seek the hand of the second Miss Zhu. How could we possibly dare to compete with His Highness? Exactly, had we known the Crown Prince was coming, we wouldn't have bothered. What a pity to miss out on such a fine match. Some couldn't help but whisper about Zhu Mingyu. Zhu Mingyu is just a concubine-born daughter. Is she really worthy of being the Crown Princess? The legitimate eldest daughter Zhu Qinghuan was even sent off for a political marriage. How does a concubine-born daughter like her have such good fortune? You don't know the whole story, do you? With the eldest daughter married off, the second daughter stays by General Zhu's side every day. Naturally, the general dotes on her completely. Won't everything in the Zhu family eventually belong to the second daughter's husband? Poor second Miss Zhu, she suffered under the eldest daughter before. At least now she can finally live a good life. Xiao Yunlan ignored the discussions around him and went to General Zhu to propose marriage to Zhu Mingyu. "General Zhu, Madam Bai, I've heard that the second daughter of the Zhu family is gentle, virtuous, and well-suited for family life. Today, Xiao Yunlan has come specifically to propose marriage to your second daughter, Zhu Mingyu, to be the crown princess. I promise to take good care of Mingyu for the rest of my life, and I hope you will agree." In the past, he had always appeared masked as a hidden guard. This was the first time he had come openly to propose marriage, and he couldn't help feeling somewhat nervous. However, given their past relationship, he believed Mingyu wouldn't be too timid. When the crown prince came to propose marriage, Aunt Bai beamed with joy, and even the usually stern General Zhu couldn't help but let the corners of his mouth curl upward. "Good, excellent, Your Highness. From now on, Mingyu will be entrusted to your care." She has always been timid and shy. Our parenting was inadequate. We hope you'll forgive her shortcomings and have someone properly teach her to become a worthy crown princess." He let out a hearty laugh and even gave Aunt Bai a meaningful glance. Aunt Bai immediately led Xiao Yunlan toward the backyard with great enthusiasm. "Your Highness, though we as parents have given our consent, we must still let Mingyu have the final say, but with your noble bearing and majestic grace, Mingyu will surely be willing to marry you." Xiao Yunlan temporarily set aside his worries about Zhu Qinghuan and couldn't help but let the corners of his lips curl upward. Feeling a rare surge of excitement in his heart, just as he was about to step into Zhu Mingyue's courtyard, he suddenly halted in his tracks. "Madam Bai, General Zhu, the crown prince and the second young lady were acquainted in the past. However, she has never seen my true face before. I fear that suddenly proposing marriage might startle her, so I wish to appear before her using my previous identity to give her a pleasant surprise." Upon hearing this, Father Zhu and Madam Bai exchanged glances, their hearts bursting with joy like blooming flowers. Never had they imagined that His Highness the Crown Prince and Mingyu had such a history. That silly child Mingyu, how could she keep such a significant matter from them? But now, everything has turned out perfectly. It must be fate at work. Father Zhu and Concubine Bai nodded repeatedly. "Your Highness, the neighboring courtyard is unoccupied. You may go there to change back into your previous attire." Xiao Yunlan gave a slight nod and went inside to change into the Zhu family's shadow guard uniform, covering his face and revealing only a pair of chilling eyes. When he emerged in this appearance, the entire Zhu household fell into stunned silence. Shadow Guard Akang, General Zhu couldn't suppress his exclamation of surprise. A sense of unease gradually spread through his heart, but given the current situation, it seemed there was nothing he could do anymore. Aunt Bai's face turned deathly pale as she silently prayed in her heart, hoping that Mingyu wouldn't act too willfully later and reveal her true nature. Xiao Yunlan remained oblivious to the peculiar thoughts in everyone's minds, simply assuming they were all marveling at his identity. With a slight nod, he effortlessly changed his tone and said indifferently, "It is I. Back then, I concealed my identity and stayed with Mingyu at the Zhu family for a while, nurturing some affection between us. Now it's time to tell her the truth, so there's no need for you all to come in later." The crown prince had given his orders. Who would dare disobey? The Zhu family members all stood with bowed heads, waiting outside alongside the marriage proposal procession led by Xiao Yunlan. Zhu Mingyue's courtyard was relatively large, requiring one to pass through several gates before reaching the exterior of her private chambers. Knock, knock. Xiao Yunlan rapped on the door and was about to speak when Zhu Mingyu flung it open with a bang, angrily hurling out a pile of items. "Mother, I've told you I have no interest in those young noblemen. I refuse to marry any of them. Stop arranging matches for me, I already have my own plans." A series of crashing sounds rang out. Clearly, many things had been smashed to pieces in the room. Xiao Yunlan frowned slightly, feeling a strange pang in his heart, but he assumed it was because she cared for him, which was why she deliberately refused the marriage proposal for his sake. How could a young girl like her defy her parents? She must have had no choice but to resort to such an outburst of temper. He bent down to pick up the scattered hairpins and ornaments from the floor, carefully arranging them before placing them neatly on the dressing table. "Miss Mingyu, if you don't want to marry them, then don't. I'll marry you instead. Come away with me, won't you? Whatever you desire in the future, I can give it to you." Zhu Mingyu turned around and saw it was the shadow guard Akang. Her expression instantly darkened further. "Akang, how is it you? Aren't you my sister's shadow guard? Instead of following her to the political marriage, why come here to propose to me?" She tightly furrowed her brows, visibly impatient. Xiao Yunlan's heart skipped a beat, yet she maintained her joyful demeanor. "The young mistress doesn't need me to accompany her for the marriage alliance. I admire you and only wish to marry you." His voice was gentle yet firm. Mistakenly believing that Zhu Mingyu shared his feelings and desired to marry him, he then took her hand and placed it on the mask covering his face. "Miss Mingyu, a shadow guard's face is never revealed to outsiders. Once you remove my mask, you must take responsibility for me and marry me. You once said you liked me. Will you now remove my mask for me? I want to marry you. You'll surely be satisfied with my true appearance." Upon hearing these words, Zhu Mingyue's face instantly darkened like the bottom of a pot. Disgusted, she withdrew her hand and kicked him fiercely. "What kind of thing are you, daring to think I'd marry you? Pure delusion. Zhu Qinghuan has already left for the political marriage. What use do I have for you now? Your only value was helping me provoke Zhu Qinghuan, yet you've got the audacity to dream of marrying me. Know your place." The moment these words were spoken, Xiao Yunlan felt as if a slap had been brutally struck across his face. Humiliated to the extreme, he was utterly incredulous, hardly able to believe these words had come from Zhu Mingyu, who had always been gentle and timid. after taking several deep breaths, he barely managed to control his emotions, though his voice carried a faint undercurrent of danger. Miss Mingyu, do you truly mean this? Have you never liked me at all, only used me, clearly? In the past, before she could finish speaking, Zhu Mingyu, oblivious to the danger, impatiently interrupted, of course, when I said I liked you before, it was naturally because Zhu Qinghuan liked you. Everything that belongs to her should be mine. You're just a lowly shadow guard, and if I want you, you can only be mine. But how dare you come to ask for my hand in marriage? I am the esteemed second daughter of the Zhu family. How could I possibly marry a lowly shadow guard who isn't even free in status? The ones I should truly marry are those supreme royal descendants. She looked at Akang with undisguised contempt, wishing she could grind his face and pride into the dust beneath her feet. Beneath his mask, Xiao Yunlan's face was deathly pale, his clenched fists trembling with such force that they emitted an unsettling, teeth-gritting creak. Her heart felt as though it had been crushed by an invisible hand, the pain excruciating beyond measure. So all her previous displays before him had been nothing but pretense, so he had been kept in the dark all along, so he had merely been a tool for her to exploit. How laughable it was a crown prince like him had actually been deceived by such a woman for so long. Yet, as if to utterly extinguish the last flicker of hope in his heart, Zhu Mingyu gradually calmed down, her hands, sinuous as water snakes, slowly crept up his shoulders, and she nestled into his embrace, leaning against him. Akang, truth be told, I do have some affection for you, but you know, after my elder sister was married off as a political alliance, I'm now the only daughter left in the general's manor. Every faction is eyeing the military power in my father's hands. I have no choice but to marry into the imperial family. But that doesn't mean we can't be together. If your identity can't be acknowledged openly, then stay with me in secret, won't you? From now on, you'll be my personal shadow guard. When I marry into the royal family, you'll secretly stay by my side to protect me. In private, when no one's around, let's address each other as husband and wife, alright? Her hand wandered mischievously, slipping past layers of clothing to explore inside, tracing suggestive circles on his chest. Kang, I'm also bound by circumstances. Since you could abandon my sister to pursue me, it proves how much you love me. Shouldn't you do everything in your power for the one you love? As long as you agree to my request, I might satisfy one small request of yours too. Her tone was ambiguous, carrying a hint of suggestive implication, yet she remained completely unaware of the terrifying chill emanating from the person beside her. The more Zhu Mingyu spoke, the more Xiao Yunlan felt how laughably foolish his past self had been. How could he have ever been attracted to such a despicable woman? Dreaming of marrying into the royal family is one thing, but to even think of keeping him as a submissive lover, what a delusion. Even the former Zhu Qinghuan had never considered such a possibility. As the legitimate daughter of General Zhu, she was willing to abandon everything she possessed to marry him and leave this place forever with him. She had shown him genuine kindness countless times before. Yet he rejected it all for a woman like Zhu Mingyu. What a fool to mistake fish eyes for pearls. Xiao Yunlan was filled with overwhelming regret, his rising fury nearly drowning him whole. Oh, is that so? His pitch-black eyes simmered with danger as the words seemed scraped from the depths of his throat. Seeing Zhu Mingyu nod in confirmation, he let out a derisive laugh, his well-defined fingers coming to rest upon the mask covering his face. If I grew up looking like this, would you still expect me to humble myself and play second fiddle? No sooner had he spoken than he ripped off his mask. With a clatter, the mask fell to the ground, making a crisp sound. Just like Zhu Mingyu's heart, it sank completely to the bottom, the moment she saw Xiao Yunlan's true face. Her vision darkened in waves. At a palace banquet years ago, she had glimpsed him from afar and been struck by his celestial beauty. She had even deliberately engineered chance encounters, scheming to capture his attention. Even after years apart, she could never mistake those features. Not to mention that the title loan isn't something just anyone can use. Now, everything is ruined. Zhu Mingyu felt as if she had fallen into an icy cellar, her whole body so weak she couldn't even stand straight. How could this happen? Aren't you Akang? How could you possibly be the crown prince? I must be seeing things, I must be mistaken. She shook her head in disbelief, even bending down to pick up the mask, trying to place it back on his face. Enough. Xiao Yunlan gripped her wrist so tightly it nearly crushed the bones. Do you think this will make you forget what just happened? Don't even dream of it. You called me a lowly bodyguard, said I wasn't worthy of you, only fit to be a secret lover hidden from the sun. You claimed every kindness and care you showed me was just to spite Zhu Qinghuan. Every single one of these words and deeds, I've engraved them in my mind. He let out a cold, mocking laugh, pronouncing Zhu Mingyu's death sentence. How dare you dream of marrying into the royal family? In your dreams, guards, Xiao Yunlan barked sharply toward the corner. Issue the order. Zhu family's second daughter Zhu Mingyu has committed the unpardonable crime of insulting the crown prince. Drag her down to the dungeon, subject her to every torture, and await further orders. As soon as the words fell, several shadow guards leaped out from the corners and expressionlessly hauled Zhu Mingyu away. Zhu Mingyu struggled incessantly, utterly despairing. No, Kang, Your Highness the Crown Prince, you can't do this to me. I was just confused and talking nonsense. Those weren't my true feelings. I do care about you. It's Zhu Qinghuan. It must be Zhu Qinghuan who did something to me. The thought of Zhu Qinghuan instantly gave her confidence, and her voice grew firmer. Zhu Qinghuan has always been ruthless, constantly harming and bullying me. This time, she must have cast some dark magic on me, making me say those words against my will. Your Highness, haven't you seen how much I've cared for you all this time? I really don't want to go to the imperial prison. Please spare me, won't you? Zhu Mingyu clutched at Xiao Yunlan's sleeve, pleading with all her might in a voice hoarse from desperation. Xiao Yunlan had long been consumed by grief and disappointment. So seeing her now, evading responsibility in every possible way, came as no surprise to him. He slightly closed his eyes, took a deep breath, then bent down and forcibly pried Zhu Mingyu's fingers away one by one. Zhu Mingyu, just how much longer do you intend to keep lying to me? Zhu Qinghuan is far away in the northern Di for a political marriage. How could she possibly return to cast witchcraft on you? You're feigning madness, but do you think I've become a fool too? Do you really believe I'd still trust you? As soon as the words left his mouth, he kicked Zhu Mingyu, sending her flying far away. With a heavy thud, she crashed into a pillar like a kite with its string cut. Cough, cough. Her internal organs felt as if they were splitting apart. She coughed up blood incessantly. Her eyes filled with utter despair. Your Highness, I truly didn't mean to. I care about you. Please give me another chance, won't you? Zhu Mingyu pleaded weakly. Her eyes glistening with tears, her delicate face the picture of pitiful misery. Yet unfortunately, Xiao Yunlan would no longer be fooled by such an act. He walked past her indifferently without so much as a glance, murmuring coldly, "Why hesitate? Do you want this prince to do it for you? We dare not." Your Highness, the shadow guard immediately admitted his fault, dragging Zhu Mingyu as he hurried out after him. Outside the courtyard, the waiting crowd still wore joyful smiles on their faces. Their hearts were already calculating how to arrange this marriage ceremony, eagerly anticipating how grand the occasion would be. However, upon seeing Xiao Yunlan's furious expression and the utterly disheveled Zhu Mingyu on the ground, everyone's hearts sank halfway. Concerned for Zhu Mingyu, Aunt Bai couldn't help but speak out of turn. Your Highness, weren't you here to discuss the marriage? How did things end up like this? If Mingyu has offended you in any way, punish this humble servant instead. I'll apologize on her behalf. Mingyu's constitution is weak. She can't endure this. She quickly shielded Zhu Mingyu with her body. Father Zhu felt a sudden throb in his forehead, as if something terrible had already happened. In the past, he would have stood up to defend Zhu Mingyu, but now, he feared she must have done something foolish to thoroughly anger His Highness the Crown Prince. Otherwise, she would never have suffered such punishment. Father Zhu secretly made calculations in his heart, taking a few cautious steps back as he tentatively asked, Your Highness, may I ask how exactly has Mingyu offended you? This humble official will gladly punish her on your behalf. Xiao Yunlan merely cast a cold glance at the family of three and mercilessly replied, Once you're all in prison together, you'll naturally find out why. With that, he turned and left without hesitation, taking all the betrothal gifts with him. The shadow guards promptly escorted the three members of the Zhu family to the imperial prison. The charges against the three members of the Zhu family were all for plotting against the crown prince and offending the crown prince, Zhu's father and concubine by escaped physical punishment, but Zhu Mingyu alone suffered immense torment. In just a few short days, Zhu Mingyu had experienced nearly every form of prison torture. Her body bore horrifying wounds from flogging, branding, and caning. Crisscrossed scars covered her flesh, leaving almost no unmarked skin as blood dripped from head to toe. Aunt Bai's heart ached unbearably as she desperately cried through the prison cell door, I beg you, please spare my daughter. She's done nothing wrong. You can't treat her like this. His Highness the Crown Prince is just momentarily angry. If you truly harm her, the prince will never let you off. Her pleas grew hoarse from shouting, her tears exhausted from weeping. Yet the jailers remained unmoved, even unable to suppress a scornful chuckle. TCH, still begging for mercy at this stage. The Crown Prince personally delivered you here. How could he possibly regret it? Besides, who here doesn't claim to be innocent? Nobody cares whether you're guilty or not. You'll get every punishment you deserve. At these words, Aunt Bai completely despaired. Heartbroken, she gazed at her daughter, unable to sleep at night, her whole appearance haggard beyond recognition. Father Zhu, standing nearby, remained silent without uttering a word, merely meditating with closed eyes as he calculated when he might be released. He didn't truly believe Xiao Yunlan would dare lay a hand on him. It's just giving up a useless daughter and a concubine, hardly enough to drive him to despair. Though he did love Aunt Bai and cherished Zhu Mingyu, nothing mattered more than the power in his hands. That had always been true, and would be even more so in the future. Zhu Mingyu was ruined, but he could always bring in the young son from outside once they got out. Father Zhu leaned against the wall and sank into a deep sleep. For some reason, someone he hadn't thought of in years suddenly appeared in his dream. Zhu Qinghuan's mother Cheng Shuang came from the Cheng family, a lineage of generals spanning generations where every member had been loyal to the death. By Cheng Shuang's generation, only she and her uncle remained alive. The reason Cheng Shuang's uncle survived was because he had been rebellious in his youth, unwilling to join the military and lacking talent for martial arts, so he chose to pursue business instead. When Cheng Shuang's parents were still alive, the Zhu family had merely served as their personal guards. Zhu Ji was thus raised in the Cheng household, practicing martial arts alongside Cheng Shuang. Growing up as childhood sweethearts, they later joined the army together and were hailed as the twin war gods of the capital. Yet the honor of the Cheng family, accumulated over generations, always loomed over Zhu Ji like an insurmountable mountain, while the world saw only Cheng Shuang's brilliance. When people spoke of him, he was merely an afterthought, just a capable subordinate by Cheng Shuang's side. Zhu Ji refused to accept this fate, but to climb higher, he had no choice but to rely on Cheng Shuang and the Cheng family's influence. When he sought Cheng Shuang's hand in marriage, her uncle did not think highly of him and was unwilling to let her marry him. It was only because he had also joined the army and trained in martial arts. If they were to have children in the future and both died on the battlefield, the children would likely suffer endless hardships. Zhu Ji exhausted every means, made countless promises, and even nearly crippled his own hand, willingly staying in the capital and never returning to the battlefield. He vowed to remain devoted to her alone for life, all for the sake of marrying Cheng Shuang. Moved by his sincerity, Cheng Shuang insisted on marrying him. She even set aside her spear, stayed home to bear their children, and devoted herself to domestic life. But he had never liked strong-willed women like Cheng Shuang. He only favored gentle, docile women like Bai Fu, so after Uncle Cheng's death, he could finally drop the pretense and bring back his beloved and their child. Back then, Zhu Ji could endure for years for the sake of profit. Now, abandoning Bai Fu and Zhu Mingyu is nothing he can't do. Zhu Ji thought indifferently. At that moment, Cheng Shuang's blood-streaked face suddenly appeared before him, eyes filled with hatred. Zhu Ji, for bullying me and Qinghuan like this, you'll surely die a wretched death in this lifetime. No way, Shuang, I'll live better than anyone else, just you wait and see. Zhu Ji's eyes turned fierce as he unhesitatingly raised his gun and shattered Cheng Shuang's phantom image. Yet the scattered phantom quickly reformed, as if mocking his helplessness. Ha, Zhu Ji. All these years of comfort must have rotted away whatever martial skills you once had. No, you couldn't compare to me before, and you still can't now. Utterly useless. The mocking words pierced like needles as Zhu Ji kept poking at Cheng Shuang's face, his eyes brimming with panic and madness. Die, just die. He jolted awake abruptly, only to see Aunt Bai's haggard face and Zhu Mingyue's disheveled state. The hanging heart gradually settled down once more. At that moment, a sliver of light suddenly pierced through the prison cell as Xiao Yunlan, clad in a black python robe, slowly entered. Upon seeing the unconscious Zhu Mingyu, he merely cast a cold glance at the jailer standing nearby. The jailer immediately understood his intent and threw a basin of ice-cold water onto her face. Zhu Mingyu shivered violently from the cold, forcing her eyes open with difficulty. The moment she saw Xiao Yunlan, a glimmer of hope gradually ignited in her eyes. Her scarred hands clutching the prison bars desperately. Your Highness, I truly know my wrongs now. I shouldn't have said those words, much less treated you that way. I've already been punished, please. Won't you spare me? It was just a momentary lapse in judgment, but in truth, I adore you. Those words were spoken for your sake. Had it been anyone but you, I would never have acted so. Her resolute expression made it clear that this reasoning had already convinced herself. Me. Xiao Yunlan sneered coldly, gripping her chin tightly. Even now you still dare to lie. Which of your words are true, and which are false? Or is it that everything between you and I has been false from the very beginning? Our first meeting was a lie. Your suffering under Zhu Qinghuan's bullying in the Zhu family was a lie. Your affection for Akang was a lie. Even your current admiration for me, all of it is false. No, that's not it. Zhu Mingyu shook her head, offering a feeble explanation. Xiao Yunlan couldn't be bothered to listen any longer, merely gazing at her with icy indifference. Remember, the punishment you endured days ago was for deceiving me. From now on, any punishment you receive will be for Qinghuan." "Why?" she asked in disbelief. "Don't you have feelings for me? Why are you punishing me like this for her sake?" Xiao Yunlan let out a cold laugh. "Naturally, it's because you deceived me, that's why I repeatedly hurt Qinghuan. If it weren't for you, Qinghuan wouldn't have been sent to the Northern Di for a political marriage. If it weren't for you, she and I should have been deeply in love. Every torment Qinghuan once endured, you shall repay 1,000-fold." At this point, he turned his gaze toward Madame Bianju's father. "You too won't escape punishment either. I've thoroughly investigated Qinghuan and her mother's past. Since she didn't punish you, I'll do it on her behalf. Consider this my apology to her." The icy tone sent chills down Madame Bianju's father's spines, their hearts turning cold with dread. Zhu's father desperately pounded on the prison cell door and cried out anxiously, "Your Highness, you can't touch me. I hold military authority. If you want control of the Cheng family army, you'll need me. Just let me out, and I'll hand over the command of the Cheng family army and the tiger tally to you." Xiao Yunlan remained unmoved, calmly pulling out a tiger tally from his waist. "Is this the tiger tally you mentioned? What a pity, it's mine now. Oh, I forgot to tell you, the Zhu family has been raided. Zhu Ji, your past crimes of plotting against Cheng Shuang, colluding with the enemy, and causing General Cheng Shuang to die on the battlefield have been exposed. You're no longer a general. Moreover, if I'm not mistaken, the control of the Cheng family's army was never in your hands from the start. It was in Zhu Qinghuan's hands, hidden within her dowry." At these words, Zhu Ji collapsed to the ground in despair, utterly broken. "Cheng Shuang, you're truly ruthless, guarding against me at every turn. I only regret not killing you sooner," he roared with all his might, like a beast in its death throes. Xiao Yunlan gazed at them calmly. Yet he couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache for Zhu Qinghuan. All these years, she had lost her mother, received no affection from her father, endured bullying from her stepmother and half-sister, and, even his betrayal. How on earth had she managed to endure it all? Just the thought of it sent a chill through his heart. A dense, searing pain welled up inside, as if countless blunt knives were sawing through flesh. After a moment of silence, Xiao Yunlan lowered his gaze slightly and looked at the prison guard beside him. "Go bring in the mother and son waiting outside. Lock them up together with Aunt Bai." "Yes." The prison guard hurried to comply. Soon after, a richly dressed mother and son were thrown inside. The child was fair and chubby, bearing a striking resemblance to Zhu Ji in 7 parts out of 10, while the remaining 3 parts naturally resembled that woman, whose child he was, went without saying. Aunt Bai had initially intended to beg for mercy and leave, but now she completely abandoned that notion. Glaring at Zhu Ji with resentment, she mustered the courage for the first time to slap him across the face. "You shameless creature who can't control your lower half. You swore you'd love only me forever. I tolerated Cheng Shuang from before, but now you expect me to endure this woman and her child too." Before Zhu Ji could respond, Madame Bai flew into a frenzy again. Clawing and fighting with the mother and child pair, Zhu Ji moved to shield them, and the group became entangled in an endless brawl. Xiao Yunlan gradually averted her gaze, her face cold as she turned and walked away. All those who had hurt Qinghuan received their punishment. Seeing this, perhaps her heart would find some comfort. After returning to the palace, he knelt before the emperor and pleaded, "Father, your son wishes to go to the Northern Di to discuss matters of cooperation. I beg for your approval." With a sharp crack, the emperor flung a memorial at his face, its sharp edge leaving a red mark on his skin. Outrageous. The emperor's face was filled with fury as he roared, "Do you think the Northern Di is a place you can come and go as you please? I know about your affairs with Zhu Qinghuan and Zhu Mingyu. Tormenting Zhu Mingyu is bad enough. Do you actually intend to bring Zhu Qinghuan back? She's already married to the Northern Di king. The gap between your statuses is like heaven and earth. There's no chance left. When she adored you in the past, you didn't cherish her. Now you regret it. Too late. You are the crown prince of this nation. You cannot leave the capital, nor can you wallow in love. From now on, your mother will select consorts for you to make you abandon this foolishness once and for all." The emperor took several deep breaths. Panting with rage, Xiao Yunlan lowered his eyes. Concealing all the complex emotions within, his heart ached as if pierced by a knife, the pain so intense it nearly stole his breath. A profound sense of helplessness instantly overwhelmed him, crushing him until he could barely breathe. Yes, their statuses were worlds apart now. It had long been impossible. Back then, he was the one who personally pushed her toward someone else. He had betrayed her wholehearted devotion. Xiao Yunlan regretted it deeply, exhaling a long, heavy sigh. After a long silence, he simply refused. "This son may not go to Northern Di, but I will never choose a consort. Your son takes his leave." With these words, he turned and left without hesitation. The emperor's face flushed red with anger, coughing violently several times. yet found himself utterly powerless. Among all the imperial princes, he alone stood out as exceptional, while the others each had their flaws, but now, he too had a fatal flaw: he was too deeply immersed in love. Yet what could be done? He could only wait a little longer, wait for time to dilute everything, until he was willing to accept other women again. After leaving the Golden Throne Hall, Xiao Yunlan felt hollow inside, overwhelmed by an indescribable sense of confusion. Though the affairs of state remained the same as before, he now found them unbearably tedious. Before his eyes, the hazy image of Zhu Qinghuan playing and frolicking with her little dog surfaced once more, there in the small courtyard. She could be happy all day just by chasing and playing with her pup. Back then, even as he stood guard beside her for Zhu Mingyue's sake, his gaze couldn't help but be drawn to her. Those warm, simple moments of happiness could never be reclaimed. The courtyard before me was in full bloom, flowers vying for attention in their splendor, yet missing the little dog that used to chase butterflies and the person who once admired the blossoms. Xiao Yunlan set down his brush. Unable to suppress the thought, had he accepted her affections back then and eloped with her, would their ending have been entirely different? Or perhaps, had he not hurt her so deeply for Zhu Mingyue's sake, would she have never chosen to marry for political alliance? Alas, there are no remedies for regret in this world. Zhu Qinghuan. Xiao Yunlan repeated her name over and over, drunk and slumped over the desk. The rice paper beneath his hand was densely covered with her name, and the only clean sheet bore a drawing of Zhu Mingyue's smiling face. A palace made with impure intentions witnessed this scene, and a thought arose in her mind. She carefully shook his body and asked softly, Your Highness, are you still awake? Do you need this servant to assist you in resting? Xiao Yunlan tightly shut his eyes, completely drunk, unable to give her a response. The palace maid gathered her courage to help him to the bed. But just as she was about to undo his clothes, Xiao Yunlan suddenly opened those icy eyes. In that instant, the maid's heart tightened, her breath halted, and her palms grew clammy with sweat. Only when she noticed the lingering haze in his eyes did she finally feel at ease. Qinghuan, is that you? Guided by the desires in his heart, he asked instinctively. The palace maid answered without hesitation. Yes, I am Qinghuan. As she spoke, she pressed her entire body against him. Swiftly tearing off her own clothes and disheveling his garments, she kept leaning in, instinctively closing her eyes the moment before their lips were about to meet. Yet in the next instant, Xiao Yunlan suddenly snapped back to his senses, gripping her neck tightly and throwing her to the ground. Who sent you to seduce me? You truly have no regard for your life. The palace maid, choked to the point of gasping for breath, frantically slapped at his hands, desperately begging for mercy. Your Highness, this servant knows her wrongs. I beg you to spare me. Xiao Yunlan's face was filled with disgust, showing not a shred of mercy as he continued to tighten his grip. He then called out toward the door, summoning a eunuch, drag her out and beat her to death as a warning to all the palace maids. Let this be the fate of anyone who dares seduce me in the future. The eunuch quickly restrained the palace maid, nodding in agreement, then dragged her out. Waves of agonized cries echoed throughout the eastern palace, as if striking fear into everyone within. Gazing at the pools of blood and mutilated corpses littering the ground, all the palace maids and eunuchs trembled with terror, not daring to entertain any rebellious thoughts. Xiao Yunlan spent several days in calm solitude, relying solely on the secret letters delivered by his hidden guard stationed far in the northern Di territories. The contents of the secret letter recorded Zhu Qinghuan's most ordinary daily routines. Zhu Qinghuan was deeply favored by the northern Di king, entangled in passion night after night without end. Zhu Qinghuan trained soldiers alongside the northern Di king, who personally taught her to hunt on horseback. Zhu Qinghuan improved the farming and weaving techniques of the northern Di people, earning their deep affection. The northern Di king, filled with gratitude, bestowed upon her countless treasures. Zhu Qinghuan and the northern Di king, every day was filled with their shared moments. Reading these words, Xiao Yunlan felt as though he had downed a dozen jars of vinegar, the bitterness in his heart nearly drowning him whole. Why? Why did they get along so harmoniously? Why, after all this time in the northern Di, had she never once missed him? Is loving someone so easy to let go of? He was so angry he nearly drove himself mad, yet bound by his status, there was nothing he could do. He wished for her to suffer no grievances or bullying in the northern Di, yet feared she might fare too well and forget his existence entirely. After much hesitation, in the end, he did nothing but silently watch their sweet moments together. His heart aching as if pierced by a knife, for several days in a row, Xiao Yunlan did nothing but guard those secret letters, poring over them again and again. The distance was too great, and even the covert guards delivering the messages took time. He had nearly memorized every word of the letters in his hands before receiving a few new ones. Seeing him like this all day, the Empress could no longer stand idly by. I casually found an excuse to host a palace banquet. Inviting noble ladies from various families to enter the palace, the greatest threat to the crown princess had vanished, and all the noble ladies adorned themselves in their most exquisite attire, vying to outshine each other at the palace banquet. The queen merely praised them a few words before letting them stroll near the Eastern Palace. If Xiao Yunlan wouldn't come out herself, then they would go to her. In the Eastern Palace, Xiao Yunlan, engrossed in state affairs, heard a soft and melodious song drifting from nearby, yet it only filled his heart with unbearable irritation. With a face full of anger, he approached the noblewoman who had been singing and coldly declared, "Disturbing my peace, slap her 50 times and send her home. She is never to enter the palace again." The noblewoman who had been singing suddenly knelt before him, trembling with fear as she pleaded, "Your Highness, I beg you to show mercy and spare me. I swear I'll never dare again." Xiao Yunlan walked past her indifferently, not sparing her a single glance, yet in the next instant, another noble lady pretended to twist her ankle by accident, attempting to fall into his arms. He took a step back to avoid her, his irritation growing stronger by the second. Even a fool could tell this was all part of someone's deliberate scheme. There was no need to guess, it had to be his dear mother, the Empress. Xiao Yunlan took several deep breaths, pinched the bridge of his nose, yet found himself utterly powerless. In the end, overwhelmed and thoroughly exasperated, he simply activated his qinggong and fled the palace. The vast capital was bustling with excitement, yet he stood alone, feeling nothing but profound boredom. The world was so vast, yet it seemed there was no place that could truly be called his home. If given the choice, he would rather remain Zhu Qinghuan's shadow guard, Kang, forever than be this puppet-like crown prince. After wandering aimlessly for a long time, Xiao Yunlan returned to Zhu Qinghuan's old courtyard. The Zhu family was raided, and Zhu Qinghuan's courtyard was completely abandoned, overgrown with weeds and covered in dust. It was almost unrecognizable from its former state. Everything could never return to how it was before. Looking at this place, he couldn't even conjure up a single image of how it had been when Zhu Qinghuan was still here. Xiao Yunlan was filled with deep regret. After standing rigidly through the entire night, Xiao Yunlan sent just one letter to the imperial palace before mounting his horse and riding toward the northern Di territories. The further north he traveled, the colder it grew. Xiao Yunlan couldn't help but think, Zhu Qinghuan fears the cold most. She always keeps several stoves burning in winter, though she also warms herself through martial practice. Is it really bearable for her in such a cold place like northern Di? Yet he forgot it was he who once ordered her to be thrown into a frozen lake for a full day and night. After a long and arduous journey, Xiao Yunlan finally arrived at the border of northern Di. The northern Di people were all as burly as wild beasts, and upon seeing Xiao Yunlan approach, they immediately stopped him with wary interrogation. "Who are you?" Xiao Yunlan answered truthfully, "I am the crown prince of the Shang dynasty. I have come specifically to visit the king and queen of the northern Di." The northern Di soldier's first reaction was disbelief. "You say you're the crown prince of the Shang dynasty, so you are. If you really were the crown prince, why would you come so suddenly without an army or prior announcement?" Believe it or not, he couldn't be bothered to argue with the northern Di soldiers, working seamlessly with his hidden guards. They knocked out several northern Di soldiers and quickly seized the opportunity to enter the city. However, as soon as they arrived at the northern Di capital, Xiao Yunlan was surrounded by a group of northern Di soldiers. Suddenly, the soldiers parted to form a pathway, and a tall, stern-faced man rode forward on a majestic horse. Riding alongside him was Zhu Qinghuan, dressed in attire similar to the man beside her. From a distance, the two looked like a perfect match, exceptionally well suited for each other. Xiao Yunlan's heart was overwhelmed by towering waves of emotion, the long-suppressed intensity surging uncontrollably. "Qinghuan, long time no see." Jing Gu's hawk-like gaze followed the voice and settled upon him, giving him a once-over with eyes full of disdain. "The crown prince of Shengqiao barges in unannounced, yet instead of paying respects to me first, you concern yourself with my queen. What are your intentions?" Before the words had fully left his lips, he dismounted and engaged Xiao Yunlan in bare-handed combat. Zhu Qinghuan wasn't worried about Jing Gu, but rather concerned that Xiao Yunlan might get beaten to death by him. He kept a constant eye on the fight, ready to step in and call a halt. Jing Gu was a man who had fought countless battles on the battlefield. His combat style never relied on flashy moves, but rather on punches that landed with brutal force, each strike aimed to kill. His strength was also extraordinary. An ordinary person would go numb just from blocking one of his punches. Xiao Yunlan was no exception. He dodged continuously, aware that neither his strength nor technique was an advantage. and tried to rely on agility to win. Jing Gul had long noticed this trait of his. If the other was fast, he would be faster still, raining blow after blow upon Xiao Yunlan. He quickly predicted Xiao Yunlan's next evasive move, slamming a palm onto his shoulder, twisting both arms behind his back, and pressing him to the ground with a knee against his spine. I merely wish to visit an old friend. Is the Northern Di king truly so petty, or does he not fear another war with the Shang dynasty? Before Jing Gul could respond, Zhu Qinghuan frowned sharply and rebuked, Crown Prince, you've seen me now as you wished. I'm living well in Northern Di. You should return. This land isn't for you. Moreover, no matter what, as the Crown Prince of Shang dynasty, you should never treat war as a joke. My purpose in coming here for this marriage alliance is to bring peace to the world. Do you really want to destroy everything I've worked for? Xiao Yunlan broke free from Jing Gul's grasp and quickly said, I didn't mean it, I just want to take you back. You shouldn't have been the one to come here for this marriage alliance. All the grievances the Zhu family and Zhu Mingyu made you suffer, I've avenged them one by one. Now that the Zhu family no longer exists, you can return and restore your mother's Cheng family to its former glory, instead of staying here. What's so bad about staying here? Jinggul interrupted coldly. If your side was truly so good, why did Qinghuan have so many old injuries when she came here? Aren't women from your Shang dynasty all supposed to stay secluded within their inner chambers? The words struck Xiao Yunlan like a vicious slap across the face. His face paled slightly as waves of guilt churned within him. His lips trembled for a long time before he barely managed to utter the words, I'm sorry, Qinghuan, it was all my fault before. Watching the man who had always been proud and only had eyes for Zhu Mingyu now bow his head to her, Zhu Qinghuan felt utterly calm, without the slightest ripple of emotion. If it had been before, she might have desperately longed to hear these words from him, but now, she simply didn't care for his apology at all, because verbal apologies are utterly meaningless, incapable of ever mending the wounds once inflicted. Zhu Qinghuan gazed indifferently at Xiao Yunlan. You're the exalted crown prince. Back then, you could do whatever you wished, everything you did was right. Our statuses differ, you shouldn't be apologizing to me. Once he had used their differing status as an excuse to reject her, now she refused him in the same manner, leaving Xiao Yunlan's heart torn as if by knives. His eyes turned icy with resolve as he seized her hand desperately. If that's how you see it, then as crown prince, I shall exercise my authority. I'm taking you back to the capital, changing your identity, and removing you from this place forever. You claim to admire me, don't you? I could marry you alone as my crown princess. I want none of those other women. I stopped liking you long ago. I want nothing you have to offer. Zhu Qinghuan shook off his hand without hesitation, even instinctively twisting it until it broke. Only when she heard the sickening crack of bone did she belatedly realize what she'd done. These days of practicing martial arts and combat with Jing Gul had changed her body's instincts beyond recognition from before. She merely uttered a faint sorry, showing not the slightest bit of pity for him, at this very moment. Jing Gul had no intention of treating him and deliberately broke Xiao Yunlan's other arm. Both his arms hung unnaturally, his face deathly pale from the pain. King of the Northern Di, what do you mean by this? Jing Jiula raised his eyebrows maliciously. Isn't it obvious? You're trying to steal my woman. This lesson is already light enough. If you weren't the crown prince of Shang dynasty, you'd already be dead by my hands. He casually stretched his limbs, as if the fight just now had merely been a warm-up for him. If this is all you're capable of, you'd better return to your Shang dynasty now. Don't embarrass yourself here. After having me, how could Qinghuan possibly still look twice at you? Jing Gul had always been supremely confident in himself, and rightly so, for he had every reason to be. Zhu Qinghuan also nodded. The admiration she once held for Xiao Yunlan had long since vanished without a trace. Now, all she wanted was to stay here and live out the rest of her days. Your Highness the Crown Prince, there are plenty of women for you to choose from, but there's no possibility for us. You never cared for me in the past, and now I no longer need your affection. I'm grateful you dealt with the Zhu family for me, but that's all there is to it. As she spoke, she glanced at the Northern Di soldiers nearby. Escort His Highness the Crown Prince back to the capital. His sudden arrival here must have driven the entire court into a frenzy with worry, and they might even turn against us. The Northern Di is a land of bitter cold. In the future, your Highness should refrain from coming here again. Live peacefully in your capital, while I remain here to safeguard the stability of both nations. What are you waiting for? Get moving. Jing Jiula barked threateningly, and the soldiers promptly began leading Xiao Yunlan away. After all, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Though Xiao Yunlan had brought over a dozen shadow guards with him, it would be nearly impossible to fight a life-and-death battle against an entire army. Moreover, He bore the heavy responsibility of the nation and its people on his shoulders. Now was absolutely not the time for the two armies to confront each other. Xiao Yunlan's emotions churned for a long while, his eyes flickering through shifting emotions before he finally calmed down. I can leave, but not now. I wish to stay and experience the customs and culture of the Northern Di. After I've seen enough, I will depart on time. 3 days later, Jingul's gaze darkened, his tongue pressing against the inside of his cheek. Fine, I hope you won't regret staying. As soon as the words fell, he turned and took Zhu Qinghuan's hand, mounting the same horse in one swift motion. The blood-sweating steed beneath them was remarkably intelligent, carrying them with perfect obedience, yet when others glanced its way, the horse merely cast them a disdainful look. Xiao Yunlan had someone temporarily immobilize her hand, applied ointment, and followed behind them. Her gaze remained fixed on the overlapping hands of Jingul and Zhu Qinghuan, a dull ache throbbing in her heart. As she moved, a small patch of skin beneath her collar was exposed, densely covered with shocking bruises in shades of blue and purple. He hardly dared imagine how wildly they must have entangled night after night. Upon returning to the Northern Di Palace, Xiao Yunlan closely followed Zhu Qinghuan. When they reached a corner, he pressed her against the wall, disregarding his injured hand, and asked her self-deceptively, "If the Northern Di king treats you poorly, tortures you with punishments, tell me, I'll take you away. You don't have to endure such humiliation and force yourself." Zhu Qinghuan froze for a moment before realizing his gaze was fixed on her collarbone. She let out a light laugh, her face full of mockery, even tugging her collar lower. "Your Highness the Crown Prince, don't you recognize what this is? These are just marks from our intimacy. Jingul treats me just fine, he's merely a bit wild in bed. Is this really what worries you? With combat skills that formidable, if he has any peculiar tastes in bed, you'd probably be dead in an instant." Xiao Yunlan's eyes reddened with anger, still stubbornly trying to persuade her to leave. At that moment, Jingul appeared behind them, flipping him over in one swift motion before delivering a kick to his abdomen. "Xiao Yunlan, if I truly wanted to take action against you, you'd already be a dead man by now, letting you stay temporarily, and this is how you try to steal my queen? Do you think you're so good to her? First, suffer the same wounds she endured, then come back and say these words." With that, ignoring all attempts to stop him, he threw Xiao Yunlan into the lake. He didn't resist, only allowing the bone-chilling cold to consume his body. This was what he deserved. He had indeed wronged Qinghuan in the past. As if to completely sever his thoughts, Jingul didn't care about others' gazes and clung to Zhu Qinghuan, kissing her. "Xiao Yunlan, in this world now, only I treat her the best. You'll never surpass me. She loves me, you can't compete with me." Zhu Qinghuan pushed him away somewhat awkwardly. "Alright, that's enough. We should go, there are so many people watching." Jing Jiula didn't care at all and even kissed the hand she used to push him away several times. As if addicted to it, she had long grown accustomed to this kind of interaction. Every day when he was by her side, he would cling to her relentlessly, kissing her in every possible way, as if wanting to devour her whole. The surrounding attendants had long become used to it. Remaining completely unfazed, Xiao Yunlan let himself sink into the lake, his heart feeling as though it were being sliced to pieces, the pain so intense it nearly suffocated him. The girl who once had eyes only for him now belonged entirely to another, her heart, her body, everything. He was filled with regret, knowing he might never get another chance. "Qinghuan." Xiao Yunlan made one final struggle, calling out her name, hoping she would come and pull him ashore, yet though she heard him, her footsteps hesitated only briefly before continuing without turning back. As her figure vanished completely, though he knew how to swim, he still closed his eyes and let himself sink beneath the surface. The darkness grew deeper before his eyes, and just as his consciousness began to fade, someone saved him. It was none other than his shadow guard. Cough, cough. Xiao Yunlan coughed violently as if trying to expel his lungs, his eyes bloodshot as he glared at the shadow guard. Shadow 11. "Did Zhu Qinghuan ever look back at me, even just once?" The shadow guard lowered his head, offering only silence. "The answer is self-evident. Ha ha." Xiao Yunlan let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh, his eyes filled with utter despair. During his 3 days of recuperation in the Northern Di Palace, he had witnessed firsthand the affection between Zhu Qinghuan and Jingul. They were practically inseparable, whether it was drilling troops or discussing court politics. Jingul never hesitated to include Zhu Qinghuan in everything. He possessed absolute strength and wasn't worried about what Zhu Qinghuan might do to him. In fact, he was combative. He even wanted to teach her how to use skill to defeat and kill him. When Zhu Qinghuan practiced martial arts, her eyes gleamed with intensity. Yet she always withdrew her strikes just before they could harm Jingul. Xiao Yunlan knew it was because she cared for him that she was being so cautious. The bitter taste spread from his heart, churning with unbearable discomfort. He understood that if Zhu Qinghuan left with him to become his crown princess, she would never again experience such carefree joy. She would have to learn countless rules, master court intrigues and manage the imperial harem. She might even have to abandon martial arts practice, because the imperial harem could never tolerate a crown princess who knew only how to fight and kill. She would never be happy like this. Not to mention she wouldn't be willing to return with him. Xiao Yunlan was utterly heartbroken and despaired. After putting everything in order, he prepared to set off back to the capital. Before leaving, he asked Zhu Qinghuan one last time, "If I promise to be good only to you from now on, to be with you for life as your one and only, to love only you, would you be willing to come back with me?" "No," Zhu Qinghuan refused without hesitation. "Everything you've mentioned, I've already obtained now." As she spoke, she gazed tenderly at the man beside her. Xiao Yunlan clenched his lips tightly, remaining silent for a long while before slowly speaking. "If that's the case, then so be it. One day, I'll wait for you to regret this and come begging for my help." He deliberately spoke with stubbornness, then rode off on his horse without looking back. He dared not turn around, afraid that if he saw Zhu Qinghuan's face, he would regret leaving. From the northern Di to the capital, a journey of thousands of miles, he scarcely dared to stop for even a moment. However, as they were leaving the northern border, all his men were tied up. A group of elite northern Di soldiers beat them mercilessly, venting their fury to the fullest. The leading soldier urged the others to be rational. "After all, he's the crown prince of Shang dynasty. Just don't kill him. We know, we'll show restraint. Who told him to dare take our queen away? The capital has ordered us to torment him thoroughly, to teach him a lesson he'll never forget, so he'll never dare come to our northern Di again. Never dare try to take the queen away. Indeed, our queen is so benevolent, bringing prosperity to us northern Di people and helping us shed some prejudice against the Shang dynasty. Yet the Shang crown prince dares to abduct our queen. What a pipe dream." Xiao Yunlan was beaten until his entire body was covered in wounds, his internal organs nearly displaced, drugged into weakness. He couldn't even lift a hand to resist. He didn't know when this torture would end. By the time the blows finally ceased, the pain had rendered him unable to stand, and he completely lost consciousness. When he awoke again, his injured bodyguard was hastily tending to his wounds. Seeing him regain consciousness, the guard immediately knelt to beg for forgiveness. "I deserve death for failing to protect your highness the crown prince. I beg for punishment." Xiao Yunlan waved his hand dismissively. "This isn't your fault. Had they not forged Zhu Qinghuan's handwriting to deceive me, things wouldn't have come to this. Let us return to court. Beatty has no welcome for me." After returning to the capital, he seemed to have completely erased all memory of Beatty. Mechanically attending to state affairs as usual, the queen selected consorts for him, but he looked them over without finding a single one that caught his eye. The queen was so furious she smashed everything in sight, shouting, "Xiao Yunlan, how much longer are you going to keep acting out for Zhu Qinghuan? You are the crown prince. If you refuse to marry and produce heirs, do you intend to grow old alone? None of the other princes compare to you when you ascend the throne. Do you mean to let the Xiao family's empire perish with you? Your son refuses to settle. None of these women are worthy in my eyes. If my father and mother are displeased, I willingly relinquish my title as crown prince to become a wandering noble, roaming the wilds, never to return to the capital." Xiao Yunlan knelt on the ground, speaking the truth. The empress was so furious that she hurled the cup in her hand at his forehead, taking several deep breaths without managing to calm down. How foolish! The empress rubbed her temples in despair, utterly distraught. The emperor understood everything when he saw this scene. He couldn't help but wonder, if he hadn't agreed to Zhu Qinghuan's marriage alliance back then, would everything have been different? After a long silence, the emperor completely gave up. "Forget it. His ambitions lie elsewhere. There's no need to force him. I am growing old, and while there is still time, I should appoint a suitable imperial grandson to the throne as soon as possible. After my passing, the crown prince must assist the imperial grandson for 5 years, until he is capable of ruling independently. Then, you may go wherever you wish and do as you please." He sighed deeply, utterly helpless. Xiao Yunlan knelt and expressed his gratitude. "Thank you for your gracious permission, father. Your son will dutifully assist the imperial grandson to ensure the prosperity and peace of the Shang dynasty and the realm." Years later, the emperor passed away, and a new emperor ascended the throne. Zhu Qinghuan and Jing Gul, representing the northern Di, came to pay their respects and present congratulatory gifts. During the palace banquet, Zhu Qinghuan froze for a moment when she saw the young emperor seated on the throne. Just as she was about to ask why it wasn't Xiao Yunlan who had ascended, a eunuch's shrill voice announced, "The regent arrives." All the officials bowed in unison. "I have seen the regent. Long live the regent. 1,000 years, 10,000 years." Xiao Yunlan casually waved his hand, signaling them to rise. The moment his eyes met Zhu Qinghuan's, his gaze was filled with complexity. At that moment, Jing Gul deliberately fed her a grape, and she ate it from his hand, as if to provoke Xiao Yunlan. He deliberately attended to Zhu Qinghuan with extra care, eager to take care of everything for her. He picked dishes for her, fed her fruit, wiped her mouth. Every gesture was meticulous. The officials whispered among themselves, "The Northern Di King truly dotes on his queen, how enviable, indeed. They make such a perfect match." These words struck Xiao Yunlan's ears as unbearably grating. With a crisp crack, the wine cup in his hand was crushed to pieces. A palace maid asked tremblingly, "Does your highness require medicine?" Xiao Yunlan refused. As the banquet drew to a close, he followed Zhu Qinghuan out. In the imperial garden, Jing Gul held her hand as they strolled slowly, carefully watching their steps. Zhu Qinghuan smiled and patted her belly. "No need to be so cautious, the baby is already 5 months along, everything will be fine." Hearing this, Xiao Yunlan's heart sank to the depths. "Zhu Qinghuan, you too, have a child." He stared blankly at her slightly swollen belly, his heart aching as if cut by a knife. "Yes," Zhu Qinghuan nodded. Xiao Yunlan took a deep breath. He knew there was no possibility left for them. In the end, he only asked her one question. "Have you been well all these years?" "I'm doing just fine." She smiled faintly as she glanced at Jing Gul beside her, her eyes brimming with sweetness. "Good, that's good." He uttered these words stiffly before turning away in disarray. On the day the Northern Di troops completely left the capital, Xiao Yunlan did not go to bid them farewell again, because he feared that if he went, he would never be able to bear parting again. This life would be fine as it is. He would travel the world as she had once wished, and in the end, settle in a pure land, detached from worldly affairs.